disgrace. I want the government to clamp down on this. I'm writing to Chris Grayling. I've tabled parliamentary questions. I want to know what the government's going to do to prevent these sorts of, I think, frivolous claims and outrageous awards in the future.
One of Britain's most successful and prolific comedy writers, Bob Larby, has died at the age of 79. He and his lifelong friend, John Esmond, wrote many of the biggest sitcoms on television, spanning 4 decades, including The Good Life. It starred Richard Briers and Felicity Kendall as a suburban couple who decided to become self-sufficient. In this excerpt, they sample some wine which they made themselves.
We've got to expect setbacks. We just had one. Let's put it behind us and battle on. To the future.
To the future. If that's the future, I'm going to kill myself.
It's hurting the back of my eyes.
The Good Life, written by Bob Larby, who's died at the age of 79. In sport, West Bromwich Albion face another important afternoon as they continue their fight against relegation from the Premier League with a trip to fellow strugglers Norwich City. There'll be exclusive FM commentary here on BBC WM 95.6 from 3 o'clock, with our build-up starting with early kick-off at midday with Adrian Goldberg sitting in for Das Hale. The Baggies are just 3 points above the bottom 3, and head coach Pepe Mel says he wants the players to right the wrongs of last week's 3-all draw with Cardiff as they face a Norwich side who are very much Jekyll and Hyde.
It's almost as if it was 2 different teams, the team that plays at home and the team that plays away, and Norwich at home are a very strong side. I think that the team that played the other day really did do very well, and what we need to look at are the 3 or 4 errors which in the end cost us the 2 points.
The organisers of the Grand National, which will take place this afternoon at Aintree, hope that the new fence designs will ensure the safety of the horses and the jockeys. Tea for 3 is the current favourite, while the 13-year-old Tidal Bay is seeking to become the oldest winner for more than 90 years. The weather, a cloudy day with outbreaks of rain. Some of those showers may be heavy. The top temperature not very warm, only 13 Celsius this afternoon, which is 55 Fahrenheit. Tonight will be mild. The temperature's down to 10 Celsius, 50 Fahrenheit. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The Voice. The Voice. The Voice. The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
They have kids and they want somebody else to keep them.
Social services shouldn't exist.
I know quite a few people that have had pay cuts in their wages just to hang on to their job.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. And breathe for a second. There we go. Right, here every Saturday morning between 9 and 12. Lots to talk about this morning, including what's the shortest journey you've taken in your car? We know that Molly Green drove not 1, not 2, but 3 doors. 3 doors down the street. That's awful, isn't it? I don't think we'll beat that. My shortest, I think, is to my in-laws who live 1, 2, 3 corners away. I could walk it in 4.5 minutes, but I prefer to take the car. The shortest journey you've made in your car. And we're talking about that on the back of, do we use cars too much? 03453 009956. But first of all, I want to talk about Muslims, the M word. It's kind of a bit of a cliche, isn't it, when it comes to phone-in radio? But the reason we're talking about it today, well, there are 2 things, really. Faith leaders in Birmingham have expressed concerns saying that Muslims are being demonised in parts of the media. Well, what do you think? Are they demonised? 03453 009956. And also, how well do you think Muslims have integrated into British society, and how well do we allow them to integrate into British society? Very simple question. How many Muslim friends have you got? I'm thinking about it. I was thinking about this yesterday and this morning. I haven't got any. I probably work with some. I don't know. I probably do, somewhere. But I haven't got any Muslim friends. 03453 009956 is the phone number. You can send me a text, 81333, start your text WM, or you could send me an email, iain.lee@bbc.co.uk.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453 009956.
BBC WM 95.6.
Now, later on as well, don't forget we're doing a campaign here on this show to promote music, local music, from over 60s. Yeah, no, we've had some cracking stuff so far. We've got some cracking stuff today, ladies and gentlemen. The quality voice of Van Greaves, not my words, his words. His words. Now, I've deliberately not listened to this, so when I play some on the show later on, it will be my virgin listen. It will probably be yours as well. So we'll be having a listen for that. If you want to send us in some of your music, if you're 60 and over, we'll give you the details in a little bit. But before that, let's talk about Muslims. And it's... I tend not to do the, in inverted commas, Muslim phone-ins when I'm doing shows because other people do them. And I know what it's like. You switch on a speech radio station and there's someone talking about Muslims. You think, oh, for goodness sakes, what? Really? But my producer, Joe, and I were talking about this. I think that there are a couple of big stories around that kind of, that cross, that intersect, that dissect each other. And so it's interesting to talk about. The first one is a lot of faith leaders have suggested that Muslims are being demonised in parts of the media, particularly over this Trojan horse investigation. You'll have heard about this a lot, and I don't really want to talk about that. The story that some schools are trying to convert, you know the story. You know what's going on. And these faith leaders are saying that Muslims have been demonised as a result of this. And quite often as well, you hear people phoning up saying, well, hang on a second, why are you saying those terrorists are Muslim? Why can't you just say they're terrorists? So are Muslims, is Islam demonised in the media in this country? 03453 009956. And also... we'll be speaking to Fraser Nelson, who is a writer and editor of The Spectator, who's written a great piece this week in The Telegraph that says one of the great British triumphs is the integration of Muslims into British society. And he compares it with France and Spain, where it could be argued that perhaps the integration has not gone so well. Well, how well are Muslims integrated into British society? If you're a non-Muslim, how many Muslim friends have you got? I ain't got none. I haven't got any. And it's not through bigotry, it's not through racism, it's not through anti-Islamophobia. No, hang on, anti-Islamophobia would be pro-Islam. Islamophobia, that's it. It's not through any of those things. It's just... that's kind of the way my life has gone. I grew up in Slough, which had a huge Asian community, so mixed with all different kinds of faiths. I had loads of friends then. But as my life has developed, my white middle-class life has developed, I don't have those friends. I don't necessarily have those opportunities to have those friends. The BBC, for all its trumpeting, is still pretty much a white middle-class place to work. The other places that I work for, there are few. Again, white middle-class. There's a few Muslim people, a few Asian people I work with, but we're not friends. I haven't got their phone numbers. And it's not because I don't like them. It's not because I think less of them. It's not because I judge them because of their religious beliefs. It's simply because we're just not friends. I'm going to use a word here that's the wrong word, but it's the only word I can think of at the moment. Maybe we can advance this. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is it? 03453 009956. So 2 key questions to talk about this morning. And keen to get your thoughts, whatever faith you are, whatever background you are, whatever your family genealogy is. Are Muslims being demonised? And how well have Muslims integrated into society in this country? 03453 009956 is the telephone number. Again, you can text in and you can email in. I think with something like this, it really is going to need phone calls. It's going to need us to have a conversation and for us to have a debate about this and to try and work out some answers. We're not going to solve anything. Flipping it, it's a phone in on BBC WM at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. We ain't going to solve nothing. But we might get some answers. We might be a little bit clearer when it comes to midday as to what the situation is. So, 03453 009956. First cab off the rank this morning is it's Matt in Solihull. Morning, Matt.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Do you know what, Matt? I'm doing all right today. I'm doing all right. What have you got for me?
Well, you're doing all right for a start, till you wind them up and they'll attack you. Then you see,
Matt, I would never wind the listeners up. I have no idea what you're referring to.
Yeah. Anyway,
yes.
about Muslims.
Yes.
They do not want to immigrate or integrate. Immigrate.
They don't want to integrate, no?
For the simple reason I'm an authority on it. I've lived in Muslim areas and here and there, but just lately I've been at bus stops here and there, and I'm a pensioner and not lonely, but I'm a man that's talkative, about different subjects.
Yes.
Mostly I start off about the weather, you see, but no, they don't want to speak to you at all. They don't want to. I've been at a bus stop there a few weeks ago in Stratford Road, Hall Green, and there was a few of them out there, and I mentioned about the bus not coming and it was late, and they just walked away from me.
Oh.
It's as simple as that. Last night on the bus there was two of them, and there was a free meal somebody had left behind which wasn't used, and I offered it to two of them, and they just took it and never said thank you and just threw it there when they got up and left.
How? Okay, a couple of questions, Matt. It's interesting. How do you know they were Muslim?
Well, they were of Asian appearance. I don't know. Maybe they weren't Muslims at all. They could have been just they didn't want to integrate anyway.
They could have been Sikh, or they could have been Christian.
No, well, mostly if I'm talking to some of them, and I do get a few words out of them. Excuse me.
Yes.
I do say, "Are you Pakistan or Indian?"
Yes.
If they are Indian, they are willing to integrate, all right.
Yes.
But if they're Pakistani, they don't seem to want to get too friendly. I don't know.
Well, again, this opens up a couple of things. When I nearly said some strange old bloke, and that's not fair on you, Matt, but when some gentleman starts to talk to me on a bus, I don't particularly want to integrate with that bloke. I'm kind of thinking, leave me alone, I don't want to talk to you, I want to get on with my life.
But this couldn't be going on for 50 years? Couldn't be that for 50 years.
Why do you think, if what you're saying is true, and Muslims specifically don't want to integrate, why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know. They just want parts of Birmingham for themselves.
They want Birmingham for themselves?
Well, parts of it. If you go up Alum Rock, and I know somebody was up there with a car, and he was visiting a shop, a Muslim shop or an Asian shop, and
yes.
He was, the man that he was dealing with in the shop was a friendly man, but when he went around the corner, he was told by some Asian young fellas that if he didn't move his car and not come back again, they would smash his car up. So, I mean, that's all I know.
Well, yes, Matt, but we could say that, A, we don't know they were Muslim, and B, we've all got stories of young white thugs smashing cars up and young black thugs smashing cars up.
Yeah.
You can't say because of that one incident that all young Muslims are aggressive thugs. That's unfair, isn't it?
Well, I can tell you I was on a bus not so long ago.
You like buses, don't you, Matt?
With a crowd of, well, I presume they were Muslims, I don't know. They were young fellas anyway. And I tried to be friendly to them, to talk to them, and they more or less take the mick out of me, And although I'm an old person, I don't look old,
But have you tried to do the same thing with a group of young white people?
Yes, well...
did they take the mick out of you?
So, some of them are whites, and... Even blacks, young blacks are all right. I can get on with them.
Good.
I can get on with them, and they will.
Yes.
If I say something about something, they will answer me back, and they're friendly enough. I mean, I never had trouble at all with young blacks. I can assure you that. Matt,
listen, thank you very much indeed. I'm aware that we are. It's a tough one, isn't it? We're treading through slightly murky territory here. In terms of language that may or may not be used this morning. But trust me, I'll keep a rein on things. 03453 009956. A lot of great points there from Matt. A lot of assumptions being made. We see a group of Asians. We don't know they're Muslims. We don't know that they're Muslims. Could be anything. Could be Christians. Could be atheists. Could be whatever. But do you think that Muslims have integrated into society as well as Fraser Nelson from The Spectator, who we're hopefully going to have on the show a bit later on, as well as he thinks they have? And if not, why not? Listen, I'm for build mosques wherever you want, do whatever you want. It's all live and let live, OK? I love you, brother. Everyone, as far as I'm concerned, is welcome here, pretty much, as long as they don't want to cause us any harm. I don't have any Muslim friends. Whose fault is that? 03453 009956. This is BBC WM. Right, let's get the latest travel news now. Here's Liz.
Good morning, Ian. Thank you very much. It's not looking too bad on the whole so far this morning. It is busy on Hagley Road already in Birmingham as you head past Monument Road, particularly on the inbound side. Just seems to be a little bit of traffic around there. Otherwise, so far so good on the motorways. Just be aware with your matchday travel. Baggies fans are off to Norwich this afternoon as you head in that direction down the M6 onto the A14. Around the Catthorpe interchange there are roadworks. Further along around Kettering, also some works going on which could delay your journey, and as you head on to the A11, but otherwise no incidents reported. But it is a good 3-hour journey, so just be aware of that. Blues fans are off to Doncaster. The M42, M1 both looking okay, though roadworks continue on the M1 between 28 and 31, so just be aware of that. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
This is The Voice. I want us to play a little game. I'll give you 3 hours.
Oh my Gordon Bennett, do you know what I found?
Go on.
And 5 clues.
There's a clue here!
There's a clue here, thank goodness for that!
To find one person in the West Midlands.
My heart hasn't pounded this fast since the first time I kissed my missus, to be honest with you.
Crack the clues.
Okay, I'm on my way.
And you win.
Yay! Well done, Emma!
There's just one catch.
He's speechless.
I hate losing.
Hunted is back with me, Richard Wilford, this Sunday morning from 9. BBC WM
95.6.
03453 009956 is the telephone number this morning. We're up with 2 questions, and for me to do a in inverted commas Muslim phone-in, it means that there's something pretty special going on. I tend to shy away from it. I let people with far more knowledge and far better use of the language, like Adrian Goldberg and other people, to do those phone-ins. But today, there were 2 stories that have intersected that made us go, well, actually, we need to talk about this. And we need to talk about this in Birmingham and the West Midlands. Faith leaders in Birmingham have expressed concern, claiming Muslims are being demonised in parts of the media over the Trojan horse investigation. This is the investigations into schools. Jewish, Christian, Sikh and Muslim leaders have put their names to a letter saying how much the city should value the rich variety of faith and secular beliefs. How much the city should value the rich variety of faith and secular beliefs. A third tangent. Do you value the variety of faith and secular beliefs that we have in Birmingham and the West Midlands? More than 12 Birmingham schools are now being investigated following claims that Muslim radicals are trying to take over. So, question, are Muslims being demonised in Britain? 03453 009956. And then the second story is, there's an article in The Telegraph this week. The editor of The Spectator, Fraser Nelson, says that these episodes are few and far between, and that as a whole, Muslims are fully integrated into British society. Better than they are in, say, for example, France or Spain. So what do you think? 03453 009956. Do you think Islam and Muslims are demonised in the media? And have they, again, or you can't help but use slightly lazy cliches, have they been integrated well? And the reason I'm scratching my head is because I like to think I'm a decent bloke who gets on with pretty much everybody. I haven't got any Muslim friends. Haven't got any Muslim friends at all. Whose fault is that? What's the reason behind that? 03453 009956. Joined now by Dilwar Hussain from New Horizons in British Islam. Good morning, Dilwar. Dilwar, are you there?
I am here.
You're there, sorry, I had you on the wrong fader. New Horizons in British Islam, what is that?
Good morning. So we're an organisation, we're a new organisation that's trying to say, in very much the same sort of tones, I think, that Fraser Nelson wrote that article, that there are challenges and problems in our society with Muslim communities and with some very small numbers of extremist Muslims. But actually, on the whole, it's working. And it's working because the vast majority of people who are Muslims in this country want to live in peace with their neighbours, don't see any contradiction between British values and Islamic values, and that Islam can be read in ways that are completely in synergy with the culture of this country.
There are organisations, I mean, the EDL is kind of on its last legs now, but there are organisations and people who follow that kind of belief that disagree with you, that would say that Islam is a violent religion, and anyone who says otherwise is wrong. What would you say to those people?
Well, sadly, I think some Muslims have given people far too many examples of that in action, and I think that's why the public debate around this issue of Islam and Muslims, and as you were saying, have Muslims done enough to integrate and so on, unfortunately it's taken a turn for the worse, I think, because, primarily because of things like terrorism, and because people feel quite understandably afraid and very suspicious. Now, what we have to constantly bear in mind is that these are very, very small numbers of people that have those sorts of views or that have been involved in those sorts of attacks or atrocities. The vast majority of people are affected in the same way as everybody else is affected. So, Muslims are walking the streets, Muslims are on our public transport systems. If there is an attack, a terrorist attack, Muslims also lose their lives, just as in 7/7, there were Muslim casualties as well as, people from the wider community.
Still, you mentioned that perhaps the Muslim community haven't allowed themselves to integrate. Whose fault is the wrong word, but I keep going back to it. Whose fault is it? Is it the Muslim community for a reluctance to integrate, or is it the white British community for a reluctance? Should I be opening my doors and throwing my arms around people? It kind of goes both ways, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, look, first of all, I think what I'm saying is that I agree with Fraser in that article yesterday, that on the whole, integration is working. It's a positive story, and it's something that we should be celebrating. A lot of my research, going back a few years ago, was to look across Europe and to look at Muslim communities across Europe. And something that we came across was that Muslims in Leicester, where I conducted my research, and Waltham Forest, where another piece of research was conducted by the Open Society Foundation, the sense of belonging in Leicester and Waltham Forest was much higher than other European cities. And so there is something here that I think policymakers haven't quite been able to put their fingers on yet, but we need to celebrate that. Now, having said that, in terms of, yes, we can be doing more. People, policymakers, Muslim communities, interfaith partners always can do more to help the scenario. And what I would like to say is that integration isn't something that just happens on one level. It's not an all or nothing thing.
Yeah.
So, integration can be split into the field of employment, culture, law, and so on and so forth. So we might find, for example, that in employment, Muslims are fairly well integrated. On a cultural level, it may take longer. And often these things are interrelated. So where people are economically successful, where people are educationally successful, you also find that the cultural integration follows that quite closely. So a lot of this is actually about socioeconomics. A lot of this is about old-style working-class politics. It's, if people feel left out of the system, they're going to complain and grumble because they will feel victimised, and they will feel...
Dilwar, how many, I don't know your background, anything like that, but how many white British friends have you got? Friends?
Quite a lot, actually.
Really? How many would you say?
Yeah. Oh,
I don't mean casual colleagues.
No,
I mean
sure,
good friends.
Sure. Look, throughout my whole upbringing and to this day, I would say probably, I can't give you numbers, but I would say at least 60-70% of my friends are white.
Gosh. Because I haven't got any Muslim friends. And I grew up in Slough, OK? So there was a huge Asian community there. So I would go around, I've eaten food from all around the world in my childhood. It was wonderful. And we were friends and we would go and play. But now, as a 40-year-old white middle-class bloke, I haven't got any Muslim friends.
To be fair to you, I think it's easier the other way around, because Muslims are a minority. We're about less than 5% of the population. So obviously, when you're dealing with, when you are 4.7 or whatever it is, and you're looking out at 95% of the population, it's going to be easier to have, many more friends who are white, non-Muslim,
yeah, of course.
For want of a better expression, than the other way around, where you're part of the 95%, looking to make a connection with the 5%. That's going to be more difficult. So I understand that, but I think, if you look at schooling in our country, it's very, very mixed, especially in the state sector. I mean, when you get to the private sector, it's a little bit more sort of it's a little bit different. But in the state sector, schooling is very mixed. And we're dealing with a new generation of youngsters that are growing up for whom, a foreign name, what sounded like a foreign name a generation ago, like Ahmed or Hussein or whatever, isn't so foreign anymore.
Oh, man, I remember growing up in school in the 70s and 80s, and if there was an Asian kid... Oh, Deepak, what does that name mean?
Yeah,
Constantly the teachers, Wahid, what does your name mean? As if they've always got to mean something.
That's right.
Very, very quickly, Dilwar, finally, we're talking as well about faith leaders from all different faiths in Birmingham have claimed that Muslims are being demonised in parts of the media, partly because of this Trojan horse investigation and in general. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think obviously, I think it's important that we have this investigation or whatever that's going to come now, it seems. We need to get to the bottom of exactly what's been going on. I think the sadness that I feel as part of this whole debate, and I think you're doing it in a very, very nuanced way, but unfortunately others have not had this conversation in the same, with the same tempo. I think people have been very quick to judge and very quick to assume things. I think we need to wait till we get to the bottom of it. But generally speaking, the slight sadness on my part, someone who's very proud to be British, someone who's very proud not only to be British but English, I would consider myself, because I've grown up in England. But I do feel that the tempo of debate in this country around Islam has just become a little bit sort of hyper-real, It's just a bit surreal. Because we've just reached a place, because of things like extremism and terrorism and too many stories about, Muslim veils and Muslim beards and so on and so forth, we've reached a place where Muslims have become the very easy scapegoat for problems in our society. And I think that's a bad place to be.
Dilwar, we've got to end it there. I really appreciate your time this morning, and you've certainly given us a lot to think about. Dilwar Hussain from New Horizons in British Islam. He was good, wasn't he? Enjoyed that. 03453 009956. A couple of points he raised. He says that integration is working. Well, what do you think? Is it? Is it really? There are still... We all know areas throughout the country, near where we live, in Birmingham and in the West Midlands. We all know areas that may be considered, in inverted commas, to be Asian areas, to be white. There are. Is that integration? I don't know, really. I'm struggling to get my head around this, and I'll tell you what I'm starting to feel. I'm starting to feel a little bit of middle-class guilt. Do you know, I'm feeling a little bit of middle-class guilt about this. 03453 009956. Are Muslims being demonised? And is integration working? Has integration actually happened? 03453 009956.
Middleton, Milo, Moseley, Oldbury, Pattingham.
Have your say across the West Midlands.
BBC
95.6.
Derek's in Droitwich. Morning, Derek.
Good morning.
Derek, what would you like to say?
Well, it depends on what kind of Muslim you're talking about.
What
you're talking
kind of
about
Muslim?
The fundamental Muslim.
Yes.
And you people on the media are quite happy to say the BNP are fascists, so are fundamental Muslims. They're fascists. You don't like to say it because they're a different colour, but I'll say it, they're fascists. They're based in 200 AD. That's why we'll never integrate with them. They still live in 200 AD. And we will never integrate with them. That's why you've got the ghetto. That ghettos, really, Saltley, Spark Hill, and all them places. They don't want to. They did in the 50s and 60s when they were coming in. They did start to wear and try and get the English way of life. They don't want to talk. I don't want to go their way of life. That's going backwards.
Who's asking you to go their way of life, Derek?
They are.
When?
They turn round and they want to have a Muslim... The fundamental Muslims want a Muslim country.
No. No one
and
has...
we ain't going to have it.
No one has... Derek, no one has ever asked me to go their way of life.
I've had to... In my life, I've had to represent them. Due to my workplace, I've represented them the same way as I would a white man.
Good for you.
Or anything. No problem. That's my way, because that was my job. But let me tell you this. I've seen them try and get Hindus a sack, and Hindus try to get the Muslims a sack. And, it was unbelievable. In fact, when I first started work, and this is the truth, there's a place called Drew's Lane. Tractors and Transmissions, it was called, the old Wolseley. I started there, 1964. The other side, it was in the same grounds, was Nutfields. The Pakistanis had to come to ours, and the Hindus had to go to Nutfields because that fight. And they're still like that now. I can't believe that the English are allowing in colleges these Muslims to turn round and keep the women out, and they are.
Derek, stay there. Let me bring Kaleem into the conversation in Great Barr. Morning, Kaleem.
Good morning.
You've been listening to Derek. What are your thoughts on what he's had to say?
Well, obviously, I think Derek's talking about a different generation to mine, but I think, speaking from my father's perspective, because obviously he came in at that generation, there was a lot of integration at that time, but things have changed since then, and I think it was very interesting what your previous caller was saying. It depends on, obviously, the educational background. I think if Derek's doctor was a Muslim, then it wouldn't have a problem being treated by a Muslim doctor. Or a surgeon.
Sorry, Derek. What was that?
It all depends on where he was trained.
Did you say you would have a problem being treated by a Muslim doctor?
I would have a problem with any doctor that is not trained in England. I would not have a Muslim doctor or any other doctor that is trained in one of the third world countries.
Can I ask why?
Because if you see them, their training and their passing out quite different to ours. Is a lower standard. In fact, you've had papers tell them they've come over here and they ain't even got some of them ain't even got doctors.
Well, yes, there have been one or two stories of fake doctors, but they wouldn't be allowed to practice in this country, Derek, if they weren't up to British standards.
I do not. I would not have. They do practice in this country. I wouldn't. I don't go to. If I've got a doctor that I can't understand, and I don't think that he's been trained in England, I'll go and look for another doctor.
Kelly, when you hear thoughts like that from Derek, and I'm sure he's not the only person who thinks like that, how do you feel?
A bit sad, really, to be honest, because obviously, I say we. I was born in this country, brought up in this country, so I feel as British as the next person. But it's things like that actually stop us from actually fully integrating. I think is stereotypes like that will actually hold us on to our, say, Pakistani or whatever previous roots were, simply for the fact that you're not allowed to become part of the bigger society here.
That's not true.
Derek.
That is not true.
Derek, it's points like you're making now, kind of thing. My point that I phoned in for was, I think the reason that you might not have integrated with some of your Muslim colleagues is because at the end of the day, when you finish your shift, if you wanted to go for a pint, they didn't want to come and join you because drink isn't part of our culture.
No, that never bothered me at all. Let me ask you a question. What do you think of fundamental Muslims?
I'm a fundamentalist myself, Derek. Because before I say anything further, it's simply because I believe in the fundamentals of my religion. Not that I'm any form of.
You believe in getting Muslim laws right across.
No. Derek. Sorry, don't mean to cut you off. What I was trying to say is that I'm not in any shape, form, any type of extremist. But I believe in fundamentals, which is the 5 pillars of my religion, which is pretty much the same as any other religion.
No, it's not. It's a backward. To me, you see, you've come into England and the people in England, the indigenous population of England, is basically they were a forward-thinking people. That's why we ruled. That's why we ruled the world. That's why we were pretty good inventors, along with the Germans and all that. But basically, you don't want to come into that world. You want to come into a world where, the women walk 2 steps behind. They're covered, in them Lone Ranger outfits that you got, and you're not going to integrate.
How someone dresses, Derek, shouldn't really matter. I mean,
it does to me. That's why France Norway and all them have stopped them. And in Spain, they've even stopped you building mosques. And they've stopped you building them by turning around and saying that all religious places now have to have a history of being in Spain. So that stopped you in a lot of the provinces in Spain.
Half of Spain was Muslim run at one stage.
I know. I'm pretty good at history. I know.
Derek, what's your problem with people building places of worship?
Well, let's take it like this. I've got to go back in history.
Well, OK, don't go back too far.
No, well, Henry VIII done the greatest thing of ever.
Yes.
Ever done. He changed
What, killed his wives?
From a pope who lives in Rome.
Yes.
To the English.
He made up a church, Church of England. He made up a church. Yes. So he made up a church so that he could divorce his wife. Yes, okay.
Yeah, but it also brought out, after he died, she come to the throne, Elizabeth I,
yes.
And she allowed the Catholics to come back.
Okay, what's this got to do with Muslims building mosques?
This country, under her, went forward and become the greatest nation in the world.
Right.
Because we had a freedom of religion. And they haven't got that.
Who?
They will never have that, and that's why they will always be behind
Hang on, Derek.
us.
Who will never have what?
The Muslims.
They will never have a freedom.
The fundamental Muslims will never have that freedom.
What do you mean that freedom? I've been to Pakistan. I've been in Christian churches in Pakistan, so I don't get your point.
I've been mostly around the world.
Yes.
And you know, in places like Malaya and Borneo, I've been into Borneo.
Right.
They've got Muslims there.
Yes.
And it's a fairly Muslim country. They don't allow them to wear the veil.
Right. Okay. Derek, we're going off on a slight tangent. Colleen, would you like to have the final word?
Well, yeah, Ian, I mean, the reason I called in was simply the fact that obviously, you know, in terms of your first question was, do we feel demonised?
Yeah.
I believe demonisation has come along since since terrorism seemed to have taken over and the association of terrorism and Islam kind of thing. It's, people obviously feel demonised because the media like to portray something. There was a story in WM a little while ago about halal meat in Birmingham University, and it was always the focus on halal meat. Should we ban halal meat? Should we ban halal meat? It was never should we ban kosher meat, which is the exact same process kind of thing. And I think as Muslims we feel that we always get tarnished with a bad brush kind of thing. Whereas if it would have been, shall we banish kosher meat? Shall we banish kosher meat? It's never pushed as much kind of thing because we're always stepping on eggshells, such kind of thing, as they're not to offend the Jewish community. Not that I'm saying that we should offend any community. It's unfortunately that people like Derek, obviously, of a different generation, are never going to allow us.
And do you think that, Colleen, do you think that will change and will pass where, in 30, 40, 50 years' time when generations have moved on?
I think the one of the big things that I was saying to Derek was at the end of the day, when you finish your shift in, if you fancy like just going to unwind for a little bit, where would you go?
Well, I don't drink, so I would. But yes, your point taken. You would normally go and hang out with your mates in the pub or go for a meal or something like that.
Yeah. So and it becomes a big stumbling block because a number of my colleagues are absolutely flabbergasted when they say to me, "You don't drink at all." And it's something completely alien to them because it's not part. It's part of the culture here, but it's not part of our culture.
Kaleem, as a non-drinker myself, I have come across those looks of what? Not even a pint. Kaleem, Derek, thank you very much indeed. Both strong points put forward there. Over to you, dear listener. 03453 009956. Derek there thinks that Muslims won't ever integrate. Doesn't like fundamentalists, wouldn't even see a doctor if he thought they hadn't been trained in this country. Because we don't get any dodgy British doctors, do we, Dr. Harold Shipman? We don't get any bad British doctors in this country, do we? No. 03453 009956. And Colleen, they're thinking that suggesting that yes, some Muslims do feel demonised. Talked about the debate about halal meat. And he's right, the debate was primarily on halal meat, not kosher meat. Which I think they're both killed in the same way. 03453 009956. Margaret's in Burton-on-Trent. Morning, Margaret. Morning, Margaret. Margaret? Margaret's disappeared. We'll try and get Margaret back. Mark's in Briley Hill. Morning, Mark.
Hello there.
Morning, Mark. What have you got for us?
I'm just flabbergasted. I was laughing at Derek.
Go on, why?
He's so out of touch. I have Muslim friends. I have lots of friends from all different faiths and nationalities because I was a warehouseman.
Yeah.
And we have people from Ukraine, Russia, everywhere. But I was working at the British Heart Foundation with a young Muslim girl, very pretty, born in England, and she was spat at while giving out charity badges. And I said, hang on, mate, what you did that for? That's uncalled for. She should swear word back to her own country. And she shouted back, I was born here. And he shouted back, well, so your mother should have gone back then. She was born here. In fact, my grandmother was born here. Does it give you the right to spit at me? Which is, and he walked off. But Derek, as he said he's good at history, I don't think he is, because Henry VIII, he mentioned, burnt down abbeys, killed a lot of people. Elizabeth I was worse. She ruled the country, but with tyranny.
And also, I don't think citing Henry VIII as a great religious leader. Well, he made up a church so that he could divorce his wife.
Of course he did.
It's hardly high spiritual principles.
Right, we created areas for people to be segregated. It was the white people, I don't want them living here, so they moved to that area. Same thing with other areas. I don't want them living here, so they moved to the same area where they was happy living next door to a Muslim family.
The thing as well, I've just thought of something, Mark. When you go to Spain, or when you go to parts of Greece, I've got Greek family, so we go to parts of Greece, where there are big English communities, expat communities.
Yeah.
They all live together. There are the English parts of town, and particularly in Greece and in Zakynthos, there are English parts of town where they have English pubs or Irish pubs, and they all advertise, we show the X Factor, we show British football matches, you can get a fry-up here, you can get a Ginsters here. Now, if that's not self-imposed segregation, then I don't know what it is. So maybe it's a human condition that we want to be with our own kinds of people. It's not a Muslim thing, it's not whatever. It's a human thing.
Yeah, I said to my partner, she wants to go to Mallorca. I said, what's the point? What do you mean? I said, I'd rather go to Morocco, where it's not English.
Yeah.
So what do you mean, not English? I said, you go to Mallorca, and as you said, there's English bars, there's English theme pubs, there's English. I want to go somewhere cultural.
Yeah.
Our country that is... like Morocco is Morocco, isn't it?
If you're going abroad, I want to go somewhere foreign, and I don't want to hang out. I don't want to hear loads of English accents, and I don't want to fry up. I'm afraid.
As my friend said, it's full of Spain. It's full of Spaniards.
Mark, thank you very much indeed. We could be onto something here. It's not a Muslim thing that Muslims want to stay in their own. It's a human thing, isn't it? It's a human condition. The majority of us want to be with, in inverted commas, our own kind. We go to Zakynthos a lot. Fantastic Greek island. There is a huge English community, people who live there, and also people that go on holiday there. There are parts of the island where it's all English bars. We show the X Factor. We show Big Brother. You can get a frap. One bar's selling point is they sell Ginsters pasties. You go to parts of Spain. Big parts of Spain, it's English communities living there. That's a self-imposed segregation. 03453 009956. Have we just stumbled onto something here? Have we made some sort of discovery that the wanting to live in communities of your own people, your own colour, your own accents, your own faith, it's not a Muslim thing. It's a human thing. 03453 009956. This is BBC WM 95.6. Let's get the travel news now. Here's Liz Saul. Liz.
Thank you very much, Ian. As you head to Hagley Road, it's picked up for the moment, going in and out of Birmingham. Passing Monument Road, round Five Ways Island, not too bad either so far this morning. Moves well on the motorway routes as well. Of course, you have the match day travel to contend with. Baggies fans, you've got a long old journey, 3 hours on the M6 down to the Catthorpe interchange of the A14. There are roadworks there, may hold you up for a few minutes. Roadworks too around Kettering as you head along the A14 and towards the A11. As I say, heading towards Norwich for this afternoon's game. Blues fans are off to Doncaster. No reported problems along the M42 getting onto the M1, but again, roadworks on the M1 could hold you up for a few minutes between 28 and 31. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 travel 08453 002288.
BBC WM
95.6.
I was expecting a longer trail there. Shall we have a longer trail? Yes, it would be rude not to let you know what else is happening on the station. Hang on a second. I don't think anyone's... Producer Joe, no one's noticed. Don't worry, no one's noticed. Hang on, let's try this.
Ed Doolan on a Sunday.
This Sunday, join me at the slightly later time of 2 o'clock as we celebrate St Patrick's Day in the company of the great Frank Carson.
One of the priests who was with me there at this private audience with John Paul, this priest said to me, we had the President of the United States in, Ronald Reagan. He was with John Paul 14 minutes. You got 19. So I said, well, I hate to say this, Ed, on your programme, but it must be the way I tell him.
Ed Doolan on a Sunday.
On BBC WM 95.6.
Smooth. 03453 009956. Coming up soon, we're going to play some Van Greaves. Who Van Greaves? Van Greaves is man who got... I'll put more adverbs in. Van Greaves is a gentleman who got in touch. We're asking for music from the over 60s. If you make music, you are 60 or plus, get in touch. We'll play it on the show. We'll play some Van Greaves a little bit later on. We've got Catherine back. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning.
Catherine, what would you like to say?
Now, I want to tell you, I live on Rectory Road.
Oh, yes. Well,
so we get a lot of staff that come down to Good Hope Hospital.
Yes.
Now, all those staff would bid you good morning or good afternoon. But when I bid a Muslim lady,
oh, yes,
I bid her good afternoon one evening and she turned the other way.
Oh.
So I went up to her and I said, excuse me, I said good afternoon to you and you turned the other way.
Yes.
And she went off. But then she came back and she said, I'm ever so sorry, but I got problems.
Yeah.
I said, never mind about the problems.
Oh.
When people bid you good morning or good afternoon, you say... you return the compliment.
Well...
Now, I live opposite Muslims,
yes,
and they are lovely. They're all in the flats on Rectory Road. But I go up every morning to fetch the paper.
Yeah.
And every morning I meet the same people. They're all good morning. But when you meet a Muslim woman, she will not... she turns the other way.
Right.
The men are different, but it's the women are not mixing.
Right.
Now, I am an immigrant myself.
Whereabouts are you from?
I came from Dublin.
Yes.
And I'm here. I'm in the one house.
I can hear the accent
59 years next Christmas.
Yes.
Now, all my friends are English. There's one Irish lady that I know up the road, but my friends are all English. So when these foreigners come to this country, they should mix in with the English better.
Why?
They should mix in with them because you're going to live in the country. You're going to work in the country.
OK, but let's go back to the woman who didn't say good afternoon to you.
Yeah, she came back.
Yeah, OK, she said she had problems. And then you... it could be perceived, Catherine, as being slightly rude that you dismissed her problems. You have no idea what's going on.
Yes, I dismissed her problems because I thought you should have said hello.
No, she shouldn't have said hello.
I would, no matter what problems I have.
Well, that's... Catherine, that's your prerogative, OK? But you have no idea what that woman was going through. Maybe she had a headache. Maybe she was a little bit overdrawn. Maybe someone in her family had died. You just don't know. You can't judge a whole religious group of people because one woman didn't reply to your good afternoon.
But I meet them every day. Not only that woman, I meet them every morning coming up to the hospital. No, they do not want to speak to you. The women.
Maybe it's you.
The men are fine.
Catherine, maybe it's, with the greatest respect, maybe it's you. Maybe they don't want to speak to you.
Yes, well, maybe they don't want to speak to me. But I say hello to them, and they never answer. But you get an English girl, and she'll say, good morning, going to be a nice day.
What about these parts? We're talking about these parts of Spain and the continent where it's big expat communities. They don't integrate. They don't even make an attempt to learn the language. So the British, in some ways, could be considered to be worse when we go abroad.
I don't know. I go to France about 4 times a year because my daughter lives there, married there with children. And I find the French always, even though if you didn't speak French, they still bid you.
No, they do. The French do no such thing, Catherine. The French are the worst. The last time I went to Paris, we got into a taxi and we said to the taxi driver, the Eiffel Tower, s'il vous plaît. Huh? The Eiffel Tower, s'il vous plaît? I don't understand. Le Tour Eiffel? Ah, mais oui. He knew exactly what we were saying, Catherine. He knew exactly what we were saying. The French are the worst.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I find the Muslim women do not want to speak to us.
OK, thank you very much indeed, Catherine. Let's, Margaret, stay there. We'll come to you in a second. Arthur, and the phones are going bonkers on this. You can give us a call now. I won't give out the number because the team are quite busy. Joined now by Chris Allen, Birmingham University's Institute for Research into Super Diversity. Morning, Chris.
Good morning, how are you?
Chris, yeah, I'm all right, thanks. I don't know if you just heard Catherine there. Catherine, let's start with her very specific claim. The Muslim women don't want to mix, her words, not mine.
Yeah. Well, I think that, I always say this when I talk to students and we talk about things such as community cohesion and integration, and I think it's down to the individual. I mean, I'm originally from London, and I know that we didn't really speak to people down our street, and so I think it's very easy to target one group and say, for example, Muslim women don't want to integrate or don't want to talk to us. There's probably quite a few people in Birmingham and elsewhere that don't really want to talk to other people, and I think that sometimes we just focus too heavily on Muslims.
We kind of stumbled across this in the last 10 minutes. Is it a human phenomenon? Because if you go to parts of Spain or parts of the continent where there are expats, generally the majority of them will be living in a British community with British pubs and fry-ups and X Factor and all that kind of stuff. Is it a human thing to want us to stay with the people of the same religious faith, the same colour, the same accent?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but I'm actually in Sweden at the moment. And,
I did not know that. How fancy.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. And I'm visiting family and obviously British expats. And last night we went to Harry's Bar, So, yeah, so it's very much a part of British culture when we leave the island and go elsewhere. We want to stay with the people who we've got something in common with. And I think that's what it's about. It's not about isolation. It's about things you've got in common. It's like this kind of idea of people like us, and if you've got something in common, whether that's religion or an ethnicity or sort of a culture, and primarily it's culture, but there's something there that you share, and I think that's the sort of people that you kind of hang out with and get on with.
Fraser, I don't know if you read the piece by Fraser Nelson in the Telegraph this week. He says that that the integration of Muslims is a great British success, and he compares it to France and Spain, where the integration is nowhere, as he claims, nowhere near as successful. Would you agree with that outlook?
Yeah, I think in Britain on the whole, we've done quite a good job with multiculturalism. I think that, there's obviously problems and we have social issues, and, if you look in the city of Birmingham, there's it's not a perfect space. But I think that, in terms of Muslims in particular, we see Muslims in all walks of life. In somewhere like Birmingham, you've got Muslims in the police, you've got Muslims working in the council, we've got Muslims at the university. You see Muslims working in all the normal spaces that you see everybody else. And I think that that's really where the success is that, in Britain, Muslims are just normal people that do normal jobs and exist normally within society. And I think sometimes we just put that spotlight too much upon them.
How many Muslim friends have you got?
Oh, I've got quite a few because my research assistant is Muslim. It's one of those things. I don't know. I don't count.
No,
No, and
I wouldn't normally. The only reason I asked that specific, slightly cold question is because I haven't got any. Yeah. When I was thinking about this yesterday, when I knew we'd be talking about this in some kind of capacity, it dawned on me, I haven't got any Muslim friends, and I like to think of myself as, as kind of a right-on kind of guy. Let's all love one another. But I haven't got any. I live in a very white, middle-class community.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, having done this type of research for a decade and a half, I've got a lot of friends, and I get an awful lot of goodwill from Muslim communities as well. So a lot of close friends and a lot of collaborators that I work with, of Muslim, heritage. Some are, are practicing. Some are very much just kind of cultural, in terms of their sort of practice. And in the same way, some families are, practicing Christians and some are not. Some is very much part of British culture. So, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head how many in numbers, but then again, I don't really know how many off the top of my head are maybe Jewish or black or, white British or
Chris,
so on.
What's the weather like? What's the weather like in Sweden at the moment?
It's a bit grey and cold.
Yeah,
so,
good. Whereabouts are you?
Varberg.
Okay,
it's just south of Gothenburg.
Yeah, I had some relatives who lived in Sweden for a long time, and we used to enjoy the holidays there, although it was flipping cold for the most part.
Yeah.
Chris, nice to talk to you. Thank you for taking a break from your break to give us a few minutes. I'm sure we'll speak again at some point. Margaret's in Burton-on-Trent. Morning, Margaret.
Hello.
Sorry to keep you waiting so long, Margaret. What would you like to say?
Well, I'm a Catholic, but why make a big emphasis on these Muslims all the time? Let them live their lives, I'm a Catholic, but nobody goes on and says, are you a Catholic? Look at me and say, are you a Catholic? It doesn't really matter what you are. You're the person, isn't it, at the end of the day?
I guess you're right. I would agree with that. I guess the reason that Muslims and Islam is targeted perhaps so much is because of these stories like this.
Yeah, but look at the Irish when they done all the bombings in Birmingham.
Yep.
But people don't talk about that. I mean, at the end of the day, you believe in they believe in their God, I believe in my God. I haven't got a problem with anybody. I just live my life. Let them live their lives.
Oh, you're getting a phone call. Someone's phoning you to tell you're on the radio.
It's okay.
You're all right. I agree with that. I think was the situation with the IRA slightly different?
Well, my parents are both from Ireland, and my dad was from Ireland, and when they blew up Birmingham, I mean, nobody wants. If you said you were Irish, nobody would say anything like that. But it's all to do with religion. I think I don't know. My sister's a born-again Christian. It doesn't make any difference to me. What she is, it's the person at the end of the day.
Is it?
And it's us. It's people like us that make Muslims the way they are. I mean, they say, they don't speak to you. I've worked with Muslims. They're all right. They're fine. They believe in their God. I know they're a bit funny about this. When she used to work with me, and she'd go to pray for half an hour and half an hour here and there. But, okay, fine. Let them do it, That's what they want. Let them do it. Don't make a big thing about it. They are what they are. That's it.
Margaret, I can't argue with that. It's given me a lot to think about. I really appreciate you hanging on because you've been waiting for absolutely ages. So thank you for that. The question I was going to ask, Margaret, and does it warrant asking? Yes. I'm trying to remember back to attitudes towards the Irish when the IRA were at their height, the 70s, the 80s, and kind of part of the 90s. I'm trying to think back. And there was. People did look down on the Irish, I think, a bit. I mean, famously, they did a long time ago. No Irish, no dogs, no blacks was the sign outside B&Bs across the country, wasn't it? Is the situation with Muslims... what does that even mean? Is it different? Let's ask the question. OK. Is it different because they're a different colour? Is that what's making it, more targetable? It's a tough one, this, isn't it? And you can probably hear I've not quite got my head around it. I don't quite know what I think or where I'm coming from on this, which is why I need you to phone in so we can work through this together, if you wouldn't mind. A little bit of hand-holding, please. 03453 009956. Two questions. Have Muslims integrated successfully? And are they demonised? Take more of your calls after the news.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
And suddenly it's 10 o'clock. BBC WM 95.6. Let's get the news with Nicole Pullman.
Protests are taking place in Birmingham later over the so-called bedroom tax. It's a year since social housing tenants who have a spare room have had their housing benefit cut. The government claims it'll free up under-occupied homes and save taxpayers £1 million every day. Sandra Kane is one of the organisers of today's protest. She says the government's own argument doesn't stand up financially.
The cost of actually evicting people is something like £6,000 per case. People who are disabled, people who've got adapted properties, and the cost of actually moving to smaller properties, readapting those properties is going to be far higher.
Dudley North MP Ian Austin has told the BBC that he's horrified that Millie Dowler's murderer Levi Belfield has got a payout. He was awarded £4,500 in compensation for being assaulted in prison. Mr Austin serves on the Home Affairs Select Committee and says he intends to take the matter further.
I think it's a disgrace. I want the government to clamp down on this. I'm writing to Chris Grayling. I've tabled parliamentary questions. I want to know what the government's going to do to prevent these sorts of, I think, frivolous claims and outrageous awards in the future.
One of Britain's most successful and prolific comedy writers, Bob Larby, has died at the age of 79. He and his long-life friend, John Esmond, wrote many of the biggest sitcoms on television spanning 4 decades, including The Good Life. The Good Life starred Richard Briers and Felicity Kendall as a Surbiton couple who decide to become self-sufficient. In this clip, they sample some wine which they made themselves.
We've got to expect setbacks. We just had one. Let's put it behind us and battle on. To the future.
To the future. If that's the future, I'm going to kill myself.
It's hurting the back of my eyes.
Football and West Bromwich Albion face another important afternoon as they continue their fight against relegation from the Premier League with a trip to fellow strugglers Norwich City. There'll be exclusive FM commentary here on BBC WM 95.6 from 3 o'clock, with our build-up starting with early kick-off at midday, with Adrian Goldberg sitting in for Daz Hale. The Baggies are just 3 points above the bottom 3, and the head coach Pepe Mel says he wants the players to right the wrongs of last week's 3-3 draw with Cardiff as they face a Norwich side who are very much Jekyll and Hyde.
It's almost as if it was 2 different teams, the team that plays at home and the team that plays away, and Norwich at home are a very strong side. I think that the team that played the other day really did do very well, and what we need to look at are the 3 or 4 errors which in the end cost us the 2 points.
And the weather, a cloudy day with outbreaks of rain. Some of those showers may be heavy. The top temperature, 13 Celsius, 53 Fahrenheit. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The Voice. The Voice.
The Voice.
The Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
They have kids and they want somebody else to keep them.
Social services shouldn't exist. I know quite a few people that have had pay cuts in their wages just to hang on to their job.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. Thank you for the news, Nicole. Coming up at some point in this hour, probably... Do we use our cars too much? And for examples, what's the shortest journey you've made in your car? Molly Green, 3 doors down she drove. That's nuts, isn't it? That is actually nuts. I love her. I think she's brilliant. And one of my favourite bits of the week on radio is when she has the kids coming on talking about their football matches. I love that bit. But she's nuts. She's nuts. She drove 3 doors down. The shortest journey you've ever made, please. 03453 009956. But we're continuing our discussion that we've had for the first hour about faith leaders in Birmingham expressing concern that Muslims are being demonised. This kind of you've talked about this Trojan horse investigation on BBC WM 95.6 all week. It's kind of where this is coming from. I don't want to talk about that specific story. I think it's been pretty much done on this radio station. So 03453 009956. It ties in with a piece by Fraser Nelson, editor of The Spectator. Wrote it for The Telegraph, saying that Muslims aren't fully integrated into British society. Well, are they? Are they? Are Muslims demonised? Are they fully integrated into British society? And I've just been speaking to producer Joe about this. I've never done the Muslim phone-in. I always kind of avoid it. I let people who are much more intelligent and much more worldly wise do those kind of phone-ins. But I just thought that these stories, they kind of get to it's about human nature, isn't it, really? That's what they're about. And I don't know what my thoughts are. And I like doing phone-ins where I don't know the answer. and hopefully by midday we'll have come to some sort of conclusion. 03453 009956. If you missed the first hour of the show, well, for goodness sakes, where on earth have you been? These are some of the calls that we had.
I have Muslim friends. I have lots of friends from all different faiths.
They still live in 200 acre AD. And we will never integrate with them. That's why you've got the ghetto. That ghettos, really. Salt Lake, Spark Hill, and all them places.
I was born in this country, brought up in this country, so I feel as British as the next person. But it's things like that actually stop us from actually fully integrating, I think, is stereotypes like that.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453 009956.
BBC WM 95.6.
Now, we've had some calls from some older people today. Derek was one of those calls. Derek phoned up and he wouldn't be seen by a doctor who hadn't been trained in this country. He doesn't think Muslims want to integrate. I got the impression, and Derek, if I'm putting words into your mouth, I apologise, I got the impression he wasn't that keen. Well, what we need an opinion from someone a little bit younger. And I'm so pleased to say that Sally from Stafford has called in. Morning, Sally.
Good morning.
Sally, how old are you?
11.
Fantastic. What are you doing listening to this nonsense? You should be watching Swap Shop or something, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
Sally, what would you like to say?
Well, in the Bible it says that love your neighbours as you serve. But meaning that you should take in other religions and treat them as you would want to be treated yourself. And so Muslims, I don't have a problem with at all, because they're just friends. Like, they're just normal people who just respect another religion.
How much of the show have you listened to this morning, Sally?
About half an hour of it.
OK, so have you heard... We've had some people coming on who aren't quite so open towards Muslims and it could be argued don't particularly like them.
Yeah, but that's not the right thing to say, because it's not respectful to the other religion, really.
OK, like, you sound like an intelligent person, so I'm going to speak to you like an adult. Is that OK?
Yeah, that's
OK,
fine.
Let's have an adult conversation. Why should people respect other religions?
Because you should treat other people as you would want to be treated yourself. So, yeah.
There are some people, Sally, who think that the Muslim community, that they don't integrate. They don't want to be part of British society, and that it's actually... It's the Muslims' fault that they're being separate.
No, because Muslims are a part of the English community, because Muslims can be born into England, hence why we have their temples and stuff.
Have you got any Muslim friends, Sally?
Well, my sister has.
Yeah.
She comes to school and she just gets treated as any other normal person is treated. And, like, if it's Ramadan, I think it is, that they go on, they have to tell the staff that, so they can look after them during Ramadan.
And would you say are you a Christian, Sally?
Yes.
And why is that so important to you?
It's because I follow the guidance of the Bible, and the Bible says respect other religions and take in other people. And it's as simple as that, isn't it? It's respecting other religions and respecting other people. Yeah. Now, I don't necessarily agree with... agree is the wrong word. I don't believe what Muslims believe, and if I'm honest, Sally, I don't believe necessarily most of what Christians believe. But I have to respect your right, and I have to respect their right to believe that, and that shouldn't make me angry. That shouldn't make me hate you or think less of you. You're a human being. Everyone... We all should just get on, shouldn't we, man? Yeah. Sally, I really appreciate your call this morning. I know it took a lot of courage to come on the air, but I think you did an absolutely cracking job, and if I may say so, probably the most reasoned argument we've had in the last hour and 10 minutes. Thank you.
I'll speak to you again soon, Sally. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. There we go. She was good, wasn't she? Now, listen. Listen. If the future is Sally, we're doing all right. If she's the future, then do you know what? Everything's going to be all right. Suddenly, the first hour of the show has left me feeling a little bit, oh, really? The first 10 minutes of the second hour has made me feel all optimistic and a little bit tingly. Because if the future is Sally, I tell you what, your kids, your grandkids, they're going to be all right. They're going to be all right. Let's get this generation out of the way. Let's get my generation, and maybe the one underneath it, out of the way. Let's just let Sally and her lot take over, shall we? Got to respect everyone. It's as simple as that, isn't it? Isn't it? That's not just some naive, childish outlook on the world, is it? It is as simple as that, isn't it? You've got to respect everyone. And yeah, what that means is, terrorists, you've got to stop killing people, both Christian and Muslim. Oh, sorry? You don't get Christian terrorists. Do anyone remember, what was his name? Anders Breivik in Norway? The Christian fascist that went around shooting people on an island? Oh, sorry, yes, you do get Christian terrorists. Now I remember. He was a one-off, though, wasn't he? 03453 009956. Zenar's on the line. Morning, Zenar.
Good morning, Adrian.
Did you... It's Ian. Adrian's on at midday, but don't worry. Did you just...
Oh, sorry.
Don't worry, fella. It's fine. It's an honour to be compared with him. Did you just hear Sally on the line?
I did, yeah.
Wasn't she inspirational?
She was, really.
What would you like to say?
Well, basically, Adrian, sorry, who was that on the line? Sorry, I forgot your name again.
I just told you a second ago, Zenar.
Sorry.
I told you 30 seconds ago.
You just get very confused when you come on the radio. I don't know why.
Tell me about it.
Just first of all, I just want to ask you one question. Is that debate about Muslim people or about Pakistani Muslim background? Because that's a very important question. Just let me explain something to you.
Please do.
There's 23.4% of the world society, world population are Muslim, which is 1.6 billion Muslim live in this world we are living.
Yep.
If you talk about Muslim people, you need to specify like whether it's Pakistani Muslim background or the whole Muslim people, because I am Muslim.
Yeah.
I'm Kurdish from North Iraq, and I'm living in this country since 1998.
Yeah.
So when you talk about Muslim people, I'm sitting down here, I'm feeling like people talk about me. But in the same time, they're talking about Asian people in between, Pakistani people, Muslim background. But I just want to know, clarified, whether they're about Pakistani Muslim background or about Muslim people.
Muslim people.
Okay, can I just explain something to you?
Please do, Zena, yes.
The British society need to know one thing. There's 3 different types of Muslim. There's a practice Muslim.
The good, the bad and the ugly.
There's non-practice Muslim.
Yeah.
And there's a Muslim radicalist, Salafist Muslim.
Yes.
The third type of the Muslim, which is less than 5% of Muslim society,
yes,
they are the Muslim who they try to give a bad view of the whole Muslim people in this world. They are the Muslim they trying to enforcing themselves into our mind or make us believe what they believe. In Iraq, I'm telling you about the country I come from, and I'm very close to my people, to my society, and I'm visiting back Iraq nearly twice a year because I'm planning to go back there permanent. In Iraq, after Saddam Hussein gone 2003, we came across a biggest ever problem. People of Iraq never thought about this before. We've been suffering from dictatorism, which is Saddam Hussein, but now we suffer from a radicalist, Salafis, Muslim people, which are very small people in society.
Yeah.
They're trying to spray their poison into people's mind. Many people believe what they believe. All of the suicide bombing and terrorist attacks happening in Iraq, it is not Muslim people. It's those small group of people in Iraq with their hand is open because there is no proper system to control them.
But would they not label them? Would they not label themselves as Muslims?
They label themselves as Muslims.
Okay.
There's a very great saying of our Muhammad Prophet saying, the greatest Muslim, the pure Muslim people, who they live, the first 100 of the beginning of Islam, the second 100 years, the third 100 years. After 300 years of beginning of Islam, there is no pure Muslim. People start to change the religion in a different way.
Zena,
those people, they try to take society back to the first 300 years of Islam.
Zena, would you say in this country Muslims are fully integrated?
They are fully integrated. I am non-practice Muslim. I have plenty English friends, plenty Indian friends, plenty Muslim practice friends. I go out with all of them. With my Muslim friends, we're going out to Star City most of the Tuesday. We do snookers. I drink my lager. They drink their juice.
I thought you weren't supposed to drink lager.
Well, I'm not practice Muslim.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
That's
I misheard you. Sorry, I misheard you. Okay.
I'm non-practice. If you come to Iraq, when we live there,
yes,
there's in Iraq. If you go to the restaurant to eat food, they should have drink because 80% of the society they drinking.
Well, hang on a second. If you're a non-practice Muslim, then you're not a Muslim.
That's not true, you know. I'm a Muslim. I'm practicing my religion in Ramadan month. I'm fasting. I'm praying.
But yet you drink alcohol.
I do drink alcohol. There's people like this. That's what.
So
people
you're
need
Muslim.
to know.
You're Muslim, kind of when it suits you.
Well, I am.
You can turn it on. Now, come on, listen. Muhammad's going to notice. He's going to see that, Zena. He's omnipresent. He's going to see that you're turning it on and off.
Well, I'm just telling you this, you know, in reality, it's not only me. There's that kind of... Can I just tell you something?
You've got 20 seconds, because I'm going to be late for the travel,
okay,
so go on.
I have a Muslim friends. They're probably listening to me at the moment I'm talking, yeah?
Yeah.
They're embarrassing to show themselves in society they're drinking, but we're drinking in a car when we go out.
Zena, I've got to end it there. Thank you very much indeed. I'm glad you're enjoying your snooker. 10:16, BBC WM 95.6. More of your calls after we get the latest travel news with Liz.
Thank you very much, Ian. As you make your way in and out of Birmingham, it's not looking too bad at the moment. One or two pockets of congestion. Hagley Road has snarled up a bit once again, the A456. The A34 around Great Bar towards Queslett Road. That's looking a little bit busy as well. Make your way around Tamworth. It's heavy going on Tame Drive, around River Drive and close to the Snowdome roundabout. Your match day travel sees Baggies fans heading to Norwich for this afternoon's game. It's a 3-hour journey, so you better get a bit of a wriggle on to get there in a timely fashion. Down the M6 is looking okay. The A14 at the Catthorpe interchange, obviously the scene of some ongoing roadworks, so just be mindful of that. The A14 through towards Kettering and the A11, there are roadworks around Kettering which are going to hold you up. Blues fans are off to Doncaster. The M42 looks good to the M1. Roadworks on the M1 to watch out for, though, 28 to 31. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
This is the voice of Birmingham
and the Black Country. BBC WM
95.6.
Baggies,
Villa, Wolves, Blues,
Tamworth, Walsall football news.
Starting lineup here inside the Hawthorns.
Yeah, make of this what you will. There's 8 changes.
Signing, sackings,
Gossip, rumour,
and exclusive interviews.
purely because of the money.
Not just the money, there's survival in the league.
Live matches from the ground. At Villa Park, Rob Gurney.
Nicholas Hellenius has scored.
Commentaries with perfect sound.
Siggins will turn it home. Blues with their first goal.
Every goal and every save.
On FM, not just medium wave.
The Voice.
The Voice.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country. BBC WM 95.6.
I was doing an excellent dance to that, and I apologise to Bernie and producer Joe because I think my dance may have got them a little bit hot under the collar. HUTC. Certainly going on here. We'll be talking about cars and do we need them? Do we use them too much in a minute? A few emails and I'll get to Millie. Ian, I simply would not mix with anyone who supports the burqa, halal or kosher meat. I'm out of breath after that dancing. Making the girl sit at the back of the class or calls an area non-white, whose country of origin stones young men to death for being gay, or any country or religion that supports these things. Why would I want to be part of that? That's from David. We've got a couple more emails here. Rich says, Ian, I try to avoid shopping near Marks and Spencer Pavilions area in Birmingham. This part of town has now turned into a religious shouting place, the loudest noise nuisance coming from the Muslim preachers. They have a PA system. It's a bore and a public nuisance. I know exactly what you mean, and I know what you mean. And I would object to any religious group that employs a PA system, whatever their faith, whatever, because it's a bit annoying, isn't it? Millie's in King's House. Morning, Millie.
Oh, good morning, Ian.
Millie, what would you like to say?
Well, I lived in a so-called Asian area for 46 years.
Oh, yeah.
I've now moved to Kingshurst because I'm elderly and I need help from my family. I can't answer your questions about them being demonised. I can only tell you of my experiences.
That's what we want.
As I said, I lived there for all those years. I was the only white person round about where I lived. I had experience of them. They treated me with the utmost respect. I was invited to their houses and I went. They used to have a group, they still probably do, of ladies, Muslim ladies, who had an organised walk round Small Heath Park every day. Now, I joined in with those. I've made a lot of friends, and I think the main issue about this is that we have to meet people halfway who are different in their outlook on life and probably their religion than we are. And I think a lot of this trouble, people not integrating, is because they don't bother to learn about other people's way of life. There are some aspects of their way of life that I'm not particularly keen on, but we all have things that people are not keen on.
Millie, there will be people saying, and I assume you're saying that both groups of people have to learn about each other's life. There'll be people saying, white British people saying, well, hang on a minute, why should I learn about what they get up to?
No, that's a wrong attitude. It does take an effort to learn about other people, and I found I didn't enforce my ideas on them, and they didn't on me.
And that seems to be the way forward. Millie, I've got to end it there just for time. Thank you very much for making that point. 03453 009956.
Penn, Pensnet,
Rugeley, Redditch,
Rowley Regis. Have your say across the West Midlands.
BBC WM 95.6.
We will carry on taking your calls on that throughout the morning. This is the way this show works, is we throw stuff out there. You can call on about it any time between now and 12. You can call in about pretty much anything. I'm not saying we've got low standards here, but man alive. Someone pick those standards up off the floor, please. 03453 009956. Here's something. Question for you. What's the shortest journey you've ever done in your car? The shortest journey you've ever done in your car. This week, the UK has been shrouded in smog, mainly down to those blooming Saharans and their desert. But emissions from cars and industry have also contributed. The West Midlands Ambulance Service reported a rise in 999 calls linked to high levels of smog this week. And according to Friends of the Earth, 25% of car journeys made in the city are less than 2 miles. So is it time to start thinking about the journeys we make? Could you give up your car? Joined now by motoring journalist Quentin Wilson and also Julian Pritchard from Birmingham Friends of the Earth. Morning to both of you.
Morning. Morning.
Julian, let's start with you. Do we use our cars too much?
I think it's about making the right choice for the right journey, and I think about saying that people are bad for using them too much. It's acknowledging that the current transport system as it is makes it quite difficult for people to choose to use other modes of transport. And it's about, very much kind of making the investment in alternatives so people have a genuine choice. So it's not saying that people are bad for using things too much. It's very much saying that as a country we need to make fewer car journeys. But to do that, we need to invest in alternatives to make it easier. People investing in cycling and walking infrastructure so people can generally choose to make those journeys on foot or by bike and feel safe to do that.
We're lazy.
In Birmingham where we don't.
We're lazy, aren't we, Julian? We're lazy. I was saying earlier on that my in-laws live 1, 2, 3 corners away from me. It's a 4.5-minute walk. If I've got the kids with me, I will put them in the back of the car and do that drive.
But also, you've got to look at why people do that. And a lot of the time,
because I can't be bothered to walk.
Well, for some people that might be the case, but other people might think, no, it's a couple of roads away where the road's quite dangerous. I don't want to, cross and walk, and I'm taking my life into my hands, or it feels that way, or I could cycle, that 2 or 3 miles to work, but the journey's really difficult because I've got to cross a ring road, or the roads are really dangerous, whichever way I go, and so people just don't feel safe. So I think there's an issue there about kind of the perception of safety and danger, and also extolling the benefits of, taking the bike or on foot. Obviously, the massive health benefits that it gives people to walk or cycle as opposed to driving the car as well.
Quentin, most of us are just lazy, aren't we?
Well, yes, we take the easy option, which is jumping into the car. But Julian's absolutely right. We don't have choices. And as consumers, we'd all like to get on a bus or find a public transport system, a tram or a monorail or a train that takes us to where we want to do easily, quickly and cheaply. But those choices are just not available to us. So you can't berate the whole population for choosing cars when there is no other option. But the diesel particular issue is massive now, and it's causing huge problems. And we haven't researched this carefully enough. And the link to cancers and things is massive. We also have 50% of the car fleet in the UK now running on diesel, and then you can put this down to two pieces of government policy. And the first was in the late 90s. They said that diesel was better than petrol because it was lower CO2 and all the climate change arguments. So we actually read stuff from the government saying diesel is better for the environment. They didn't know this, and they shouldn't have made this point. And also the fact that fuel duty is so high that you can't blame consumers for wanting to go for the most economical option, which is a diesel car, which does more to the gallon than petrol. But it is a massive, massive issue. Throw in all the power stations and all the HGVs, and we have a burgeoning public health issue with diesel.
Julian, no doubt you'd agree with diesel. Diesel is a huge problem, but people want to save a few quid, don't they?
Yeah, and there you want to also look at how we save people money in other ways. And if you make it easier for people to kind of use other modes of transport, so they're using less fuel altogether, then that's, you don't pay to ride your bike, do you? It's free once you've bought the bike.
Well,
so if you're looking at other ways of people making.
You say it's free, Julian. It's not free on your buttocks the next morning. I can't ride a bike because it just does my bum in.
Obviously, certain people might enjoy it less than others, but I think it's very much about putting the infrastructure and the systems in place to make it easier for people. And going back to the kind of particulate issue with the diesel cars, and that and originally the reason we encouraged to go over to that was for kind of CO2 reasons. Well, that's a classic case of looking at, as one solution as the silver bullet, and that was better because it was less CO2, and then ignoring the other problem, which was the particulate matter, and that. You've got to look at kind of whichever solution you're advocating. You've got to look at it in the whole, in the round, and the other impacts that solution might or may not have, so that you don't get this problem where you're trying to do it for good reasons, and then actually what happens is the whole other impact. So that's why we've got to tackle traffic levels as a whole and get people using other modes of transport and get the number of cars on the road down. There's a limit to what we can do with technological fixes, and we can do something with that.
Quentin,
but we also need to get traffic levels down as a whole as well.
Quentin, I'm surprised because both of you have said most people would like to use buses. I don't think they would, Quentin. I think most people like the fact their car's parked out on the street, they jump in, they can put the kids in, they can put on their favourite CD, they can get to where they want. Yeah, it's a bit tricky to try and park. They put the shopping in the back, and then they shoot back. Most people prefer that, don't they?
They do, but there's a growing awareness out there that there has to be a choice, and it's costly now to drive. So if there were small, regular, clean, dependable, reliable buses, a lot more people would look at them. We've also got to look at not having engines idling unnecessarily. We've got to support cleaner cars. I've got an electric car here, and when you drive that, you feel completely and totally virtuous because the emissions are absolutely zero. So we could establish an industry in the UK and provide tons of jobs and lots of GDP building these low-emission cars or zero-emission cars, and also providing technology that can actually clean up a lot of these diesel engines. We've got to work much, much harder in taking these really, really tiny, what they call PM2.5s, which can get through even a face mask and embed themselves deeply in your body. So, look, I'm a car man and I love cars, but diesel is something that the government really, really does need to do something about. And in America, we've got a clean air task force, which is actually doing all this, and maybe it's time we thought about that.
Quentin, what's the shortest journey you've ever done in your car?
Look, I'm hands up like everybody else. Probably, a mile down to the paper shop, and it's inexcusable. But sadly, that's the choice I make, and I think a lot of us have to change those choices.
Julian?
Quentin's right that we can do a lot with technological change. Electric cars certainly do play a role, but also those kind of technological change won't necessarily solve the other problems we've got with traffic, or around congestion, and particularly with electric cars, you've got to look at the whole life kind of environmental costs as well, not just that it's clean on site. Where does the energy come from? How is that generated? For the electricity and so forth. So electric cars definitely do play a part, and so technological fixes can really help us. But we also need to get the kind of traffic levels down and just invest in alternatives, in infrastructure to make that happen. The Dutch or the Germans or other European countries, they're not that different from us, and they've got much higher cycling levels. You've got to look at why that is, and that's because they've put in the cycling infrastructure to make it happen where they are.
Julian,
what's that investment here as well?
Julian, what's the shortest journey you've ever done? Come on, you've popped round the corner to pick up some milk, haven't you?
Well, actually, I don't have a car. So,
what?
No, I live in Birmingham without a car. I can drive, so when I go home, I can choose if I need to.
How do you survive without a car?
I cycle and I get the bus. And it must be said, I am lucky because where I live on a cycle route and I live on a main bus route. So I am lucky where I live. Not all people are that lucky, and that's why we need to really invest in alternative infrastructure to make it easy. And that's why we, as Birmingham, have been calling on our council to really invest in cycling, walking, going for long term. Over the next 10 years, we're calling for people to invest £10, the council, to invest £10 per person per year in Birmingham.
Julian, we've got to end it there. Thank you very much, Julian Pritchard from Birmingham Friends of the Earth and motoring journalist Quentin Wilson. I really appreciate your time. Wowzers, he doesn't have a car. How? OK. Can you survive? Could you survive without a car? Do you survive without a car? 03453 009956. As a father of two, I couldn't do it. Could not do it. Couldn't do it. Couldn't get the kids to school, to nursery, to their friends. I couldn't do it. I would need to have a car. Could you survive without your car? Do you survive without a car? How important is your car in your life? Julian shocked me at the end there. I don't have a car. What? And also, I'm surprised by both Julian and Quentin, both saying that most people would prefer to travel on the bus. Now, I like the bus. When I used to live in London, long time ago, I used to get the bus more than the tube, certainly more than driving into town. I used to like the bus. You sit on the top deck of the bus at the front, you can pretend you're the driver, and you just get to see stuff. You get to see stuff that you don't normally see because you're higher up. I used to love it. And even now, if I've got a bit of time, if I'm in a town, I'll get the bus. But, most people wouldn't prefer to use the bus, would they? You wouldn't prefer to use the bus. You prefer to use your car. It's comfortable. You can throw your, your sandwich wrapper on the floor. You can put your CD on. You can listen to your radio station. 03453 009956. Do you agree with Quentin and Julian that most people would prefer to get the bus? And could you give up your car?
Longbridge,
Quarry Bank,
Sturchley,
Rowley Regis
and Harborne. Have your say across the West Midlands on BBC WM 95.6.
Yeah, rock it out. Mo's on the line. Morning, Mo.
Hello, Iain. I know you're on the subject of cars at the moment. That wasn't why I rang, though.
Well, it doesn't matter, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cleverly segue from cars into what you're talking about. Are you ready?
OK.
No, so just bear with me. I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing, all right?
I know that.
OK. Mo, could you survive without your car?
I don't drive, Iain. I am a bus user, a train user, and every single person I know has got a car, so I get a lot of lifts.
I see. She gets lifts. Mo gets lifts. So you couldn't survive without a car?
I am a great walker, Iain. I'm a great believer in walking. And I know people half my age that get out of breath much quicker than I do.
What, 40-year-olds?
Yes, even a 38-year-old.
Well, listen.
I was with a 38-year-old a few years ago. We were doing a computer course.
Hello, cheeky.
And we were together running for the bus, saw the bus coming, ran for the bus, got to the bus stop in time. She was panting for breath. I wasn't.
Here's the thing. I think I mentioned this. Did I mention this last week? When I run for the bus now. Yeah, I did. When I run for the bus, Mo, my man boobs, I have to hold my chest down. It's not funny, I'm disabled. I have to hold my chest down because my man boobs flop around so much. I nearly had my eye out the other day.
Well, listen.
Yes?
I think I saw you on... I can't remember what it was. The last time I saw you wasn't very long ago on TV.
Oh, yeah.
And you were slim.
Thank you.
Slim.
Hey, was it on Sky?
I can't remember, but I know it was live.
OK, well, it may have been on Sky, in which case I would have been sat down, so everything kind of sinks down.
No, you walked first. You walked over before you sat down.
Then I think you're thinking of someone else, though, Mo.
No, I know exactly what you look like.
OK.
Well, your photo's on the WM website.
Now, but listen, Mo, and here comes the clever segue. No one's going to pick up on this. Mo, but that's not what you called in about, is it?
No.
What is it then?
What I called in about was your main subject this morning, which is why we don't integrate more with the Muslim religion and vice versa.
Yes.
Well, I've got nothing against integration, but I've got a whole lot against encouraging religion in any way, shape or form.
Encouraging religion?
Encouraging religion.
Any religion you don't want to encourage? Tell me why.
No, none. Because it's been the scourge of this earth. It's been the scourge of wars, segregation. Women have suffered from it. It's man-controlled. It hasn't. I don't know of any great good that it's done. Do you?
Yes.
What's that?
Well, the people that follow it and don't follow its violent history can be very loving, can be very generous, can be very charitable, can be very kind. It gives a lot of comfort to people who are perhaps lonely and in pain. It can be very supportive of people of all kinds of ages, and it gives hope.
You mentioned its violent history.
Sorry?
You mentioned it. You just mentioned its violent history. It's still violent. Women are suppressed, and look at honour killings for a start.
Well, hang on. Are we talking specifically about Islam, or are we talking about all religions?
Well, we're talking at the moment. We're talking about your subject, but
right.
What I'm talking about, my main reason for ringing you is to talk about the hopefully riddance eventually of all religions, not just Muslims.
But all religions. Someone will phone up with some bizarre religion that does the opposite of this. But all religions, at their heart, are very loving. The basic message of the major religions is to love one another.
Yeah,
and that's a nice thing, isn't it?
That message isn't carried out.
By a minority of people, that message isn't carried out.
Well, as far as we know. You know, look how long, centuries old, the recent, I don't want to specifically pick on one, the recent, furore and absolute disgraceful situation concerning the Catholic Church. I can't hear the word Catholic Church now, or the Pope or priest, without images cropping up in my mind.
Of what?
Of the abuse of children.
Yeah, but again, that's the minority. That's the minority of the Catholic Church, tiny minority.
Minority, Ian, that probably got caught.
You can't be saying the majority of Catholics are off having it away with kids.
Well,
or can you
know that?
So do you genuinely think the majority of Catholics are child abusers?
I don't know, Ian. I'll tell you what I do know, though. I do know that an awful lot of them knew it was going on and kept stum about it. Even popes. And they've manipulated situations to keep their good name.
But yes, people in authority in various religions have certainly abused their position in every definition of that word. But Mo, it is and I will guarantee this. It is a tiny minority of Catholics have been involved in this paedophile scandal. And also, it's not just religion, it's people in positions of power have always abused their power, whether it be monarchy, whether it be the head of a company, whether it be celebrity. People have always abused their power for their own illicit gains.
Well, I know that, but we're talking about one particular subject this morning.
Yeah.
And we've just I've just specifically.
But it's like saying the whole BBC knew about Jimmy Savile.
Well, I bet you an awful lot did.
No, they
lot more than we'll ever know.
No, Mo,
because of how
they
long
didn't.
It's been going on, Ian.
Mo.
An awful lot of people get to know a lot of things over 40 and 50 years.
Yeah, and do you know what? Paedophiles are really good at keeping secrets. That's what they do. I guarantee you. And this is, Mo, I can't even believe I'm saying this to you because I always thought you were quite intelligent. The majority of Catholics are not paedophiles. The majority of the BBC did not know what Jimmy Savile was up to.
I didn't say the majority were. I never used that word at all.
No, but you didn't dispute that word, Mo. You said you don't know. And
exactly
I do know. I do know. I know for a fact.
No, you don't.
I do know for a fact that the majority
what do you know for a fact?
I know for a fact that the majority of Catholics are not paedophiles. The majority of the BBC did not know about Jimmy Savile. Fact.
Well, the Catholic Church have lost followers in their millions.
Yeah.
The BBC isn't as loved and admired as it used to be because of the unfairness and injustice that goes on at the BBC, even though I'm still a fan, So these things are not good for their image, and they do affect us out here that they used to have an influence on. But happily, gladly, they don't anymore. They haven't got a hold on us anymore because we're more educated, we are even more intelligent, and we've wised up, and we don't let things. We don't allow these people in professional positions to influence and have this power and control like we used to, because time proves again and again and again that they are not good people.
Mo, thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956. The majority. Let me put that out to you. I don't need to state my case. I've stated my belief on this. Mo, I put forward to Mo that the majority of Catholics are not paedophiles. She came back with, you don't know that. She didn't say that the majority are, but she said, you don't know that they're not. I'm going to throw that out there to you. I'm throwing it out there to you. Would love to get your feedback on that. 03453 009956. Now, June, I know you've called in about surviving without a car. But
That's right, Ian.
Before we do that, June...
Yes.
Can I play you a little snatch of music?
Yes.
Do you want a snatch of Van Greaves?
Who?
Van Greaves?
Oh, I've never heard of him.
Have you not?
No.
Well, you're going to hear of him now. We've been asking, June, and this really has been a very successful campaign. So successful, this may be the last week we do it.
Okay.
We've been asking for people who are 60 and over in the
60 and over? I'm 80 and over.
Well, good for you, my love. Well done. We've been asking for people to... Do you sing at all, June?
Can I sing?
Yes.
No,
Not
I
at all.
can't sing a note.
What kind of music do you sing when you're doing the dusting?
I like to listen to Daniel O'Donnell. Country and western.
Bit of country. Do you like a bit of Glenn Campbell?
Oh, yes, I like him.
Like a rhinestone cowboy.
Oh, that's it, yes.
Yeah, June. Yeah, it's working, isn't it? It's doing something.
Yeah, I love that.
Go on, give us a bit of Glenn Campbell. Go on.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't.
Go on.
Honestly, I couldn't.
Go on, sing a little bit of Wichita Lineman.
I'm around...
Go on.
No, I can't do it.
You were going to do it, June. Just give us 2 lines. Go on.
Oh, I don't know all the words.
Just la la la, the bits you don't know.
Do you know there was a chap on The Voice?
Yeah.
An Irish chap, and he sang Country Road, and he was beautiful.
Go on,
he didn't get anywhere, but he was.
Give us a bit of Country Road. Go on.
I can't. You sing it.
I'll sing it if you sing it with me.
Oh no. You put me off what I was going to say now.
All right, we'll get back to... Don't worry, I'll let you get back to what you're going to say. But Van Greaves has very kindly sent in a CD of music, OK? He's labelled it The Quality Voice of Van Greaves.
Yeah.
And there's a wonderful picture of a wonderful-looking gentleman. He's got a beard. Ooh. He's got a Panama hat on. He's got a bow tie. He looks very, very smart.
Yeah.
Should we have a little listen to him?
Yes, I will do.
Here we go. Let's have a listen. Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, I've got to press play button. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Oh, no, why can't we hear it? Oh, I've broken the CD. Oh, hang on, I've got the wrong CD. Hang on. Oh, no.
You like me?
No, if only. Right, hang on. Here we go. Right, I fixed it. Right, here we go.
All right. Riding around in the breeze. Well, it's all right. If you live the life you please. Well, it's all right. Doing the best you can. Well, it's all right. As long as you lend a hand. You can sit around and wait for the phone to ring.
What do you reckon, June?
Oh, I'd give him 9 out of 10.
Oh!
Very good.
Why not 10 out of 10?
Well, yes, 10 out of 10.
I don't want to influence you, June. You did specifically say 9 out of 10. What was lacking from it? There was something lacking, wasn't there?
Well, he's on the edge. He's very good.
He's good, isn't he?
Well, it's all right.
We'll play a bit more Van later on. That's Van Greaves, and if anybody
Van Green.
Sorry.
Van Green.
Green Van.
I always think of that.
He's the ice cream man.
Oh, I'll get a lot of white vans round there.
Yes. Well, there you go. Now, June, why have you called in, please?
Oh, about you couldn't do without your car.
Oh, yes.
Well, I'm one of 11 children.
Oh.
And we never... Well, I don't think there was many with cars then. But we used to have to walk to school. We used to come home dinner time for our dinner. And it was at least 20 minutes walk.
Yeah.
And my mother had to go to the shops, and that was at least half an hour walk with heavy bags there and back. So, welcome to the real world.
But have you always have you driven at any point in your life, June?
Me, no. We've never had a car.
Wow.
Never had a car. But we used the buses after we got older. But when we was going to school, we always had to walk. I mean, my mother used to take the younger ones when they first started, but as we got older, the elder ones, they went with the elder ones.
Yes.
We always had to walk.
June, I appreciate your call. Thank you. Some more Van Greaves a bit later on. Carpet Martin on Twitter says, I don't know about Catholics, but the majority of people who don't drive cars knew what Jimmy Savile was up to. What? I think it's confusing too many.
Even if you're old and grey, well, it's all right.
Don't forget, if you're 60 plus and you live in the... if you're listening to the show, basically, and you want to send in some music, please do. You can post it in to us. To the we'll get the address later on. It's the mailbox, Birmingham. That'll get there, pretty much. Or you can email me, iain.lee@bbc.co.uk. And I have to say, if we don't get any more stuff sent in, then this will be the last week we do it.
All right. If you live the life you please.
Oh, there we go, Van. Excellent stuff. It's 10:45. It's BBC WM 95.6. Let's get the travel news now. Let's go over to Liz.
Hello, Ian. It's looking a little bit busy as you head in and out of Birmingham. Currently through Sparkhill on the A34. It's eased off from Great Bar, though, around Queslett Road along that stretch. You'll find a bit of congestion in Stourport this morning on the High Street, just around Mitten Street. And in Dudley, it started to look congested on parts of the A461 along the bypass between Scots Green Island and Cinderbank Island. Your matchday travel sees Baggies fans heading over to Norwich. No delays on the M6 as you head down towards the Catthorpe interchange where it meets the M1, the A14. But there are roadworks around there. The A14 is all right, but there's roadworks around Kettering, which are going to delay you a little bit, and then getting on to the A11. Blues fans are off to Doncaster. Again, no problems reported on either the M42 or the M1 as you head in that direction. There are roadworks on the M1 to watch out for, 28 to 31. At Walsall, you've got a relatively short journey up to Port Vale, up the M6. No delays reported along that stretch. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 travel 08453 002288.
This is The Voice. I want us to play a little game. I'll give you 3 hours.
Oh my Gordon Bennett, do you know what I found?
Go on.
And 5 clues.
There's a clue here!
There's a clue here, thank goodness for that!
To find one person in the West Midlands.
My heart hasn't pounded this fast since the first time I kissed my missus, to be honest with you.
Crack the clues.
Okay, I'm on my way.
And you win.
Yay! Well done, Emma!
There's just one catch.
He's speechless.
I hate losing.
Hunted is back with me, Richard Wilford, this Sunday morning from 9.
BBC WM
95.6.
Honestly, if you could hear what goes on while the trails and while the travel and while the news is happening, then both myself and producer Joe would get the sack. Quite simply. There is a culture of bullying here at the BBC, and I'm not happy about it in the slightest. 03453 009956 is the telephone number. Coming up in a little bit, do you believe in aliens? I'm going to put my cards on the table. Yes, I do. I totally do. Now, I don't necessarily think they come to the Earth and take Texans and probe them, but there has to be aliens. There has to be other life form. There has to be other life. Mathematically, there has to be. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in chakras. I don't believe in mediums. But I believe in aliens, and you're a fool if you don't. And I've seen a UFO. Fact. 03453 009956. We'll be talking about that soon. No, it wasn't an aeroplane. It was a UFO, and it was a flying object that was unidentified. I was not on drugs then, strangely enough. I was on my way to buy some drugs. I wasn't. It's a joke, for goodness sakes. We're also talking about, do we drive cars too much? Could you survive without your car? Could you survive without your car, Cliff?
I haven't got a car, so I do survive.
What? How do you survive? And why haven't you got a car? There are so many questions.
Why haven't I have it? I never learned how to drive, despite my dad trying here to teach me.
Yeah.
One time he tried here to teach me, I nearly ended up in somebody's fence.
Oh, blimey.
And also, as well, when I was 13, I was diagnosed with diabetes, so the insurance is automatically higher. But I've always lived with an easy walk of shops. I mean, where I am in Tipton now, I can go to the Co-op in about 5 minutes, or I can go to the corner shop if I need anything like furniture or hi-fi equipment or CDs.
Hi-fi equipment, yes. Yeah, well, I suppose nowadays you can, can't you? I'm surprised. Is this me being naive? I didn't know that you'd have to pay higher insurance because you're a diabetic.
I think you do, yes,
because we did some research when I was in my early 20s.
Yes.
And my dad said it's a third to half higher for you.
I got a feeling your dad may have just been winding you up so he didn't have to buy you a car and pay for your insurance.
Oh, he would have. You bought me anything. Yeah, my dad, he was a very kind man. But the thing is as well, I live on a main road in Tipton.
Yeah.
And up the road from us are some traffic lights. And it holds the traffic up. It trails all the way down, past our house, down to the health centre on the corner. But some idiots, and I call them idiots because they are, there's a little side street at the back of us where old folks live. There's a little complex of old folks' houses and flatlets and that, cars on each side. And some of these idiots, without slowing down, turn off. It's like a Y turn.
Yeah.
And they speed up there, and it's an accident waiting to happen. I contacted the local council about this, and they took ages and ages to find out. And they said that they had gone back 5 years, and there's no report of any accidents. Well, I thought, just because there's no report, it doesn't mean to say that there isn't going to be.
Cliff, do you not miss the thought of having a car? The fact I could jump in my car after this show today, and I could go anywhere I want. And in fact, at some point on my journey home, I'm going to go to a drive-through Starbucks. I don't even have to get out of my car to get a coffee. It's wonderful.
Do they do? Do they throw it at you as you go by?
Yeah, you got to drive past and they toss it at you.
No, I don't. Because first of all, you've got insurance, then you've got tax, then you've got the running costs.
Oh, it's
if
expensive,
I want to go to Tesco, I call a taxi. It costs me £4.
Yeah.
I can walk around Tesco. I can have another taxi back, £4. That's the other week's shopping done.
Gosh.
If I want to go to the cinema, there's a multiplex about half a mile up the other road. But you were talking about UFOs, weren't you?
Yeah, go on.
One of my favourite subjects. Well, I was on near the back door here the other night having a smoke, as I do.
Yes.
And
what were you smoking, Cliff, just so we clarify? Oh.
You're in one of those moods today, aren't you?
Were you?
I was having a normal cigarette.
A normal cigarette?
I don't smoke anything else.
Good for you. Well done.
And I happened to glance to my right, and there was a star in the sky.
Yeah, well, it's the sky.
And surrounding it were a lot of orange-coloured orbs.
Oh.
About 8 or 10 of them. So I went upstairs, had a look, but the street lights were sort of dazzling. So I came back down again and had another look. Are you repeating what I'm saying?
I'm not repeating what you're saying, though.
Oh, good. And I found out it was the reflections of water on the leaves of trees.
The reflections of water on the leaves? I am repeating what you're saying, actually, Cliff. You've gone very
surrounding you, the star.
What?
Now, if you hadn't have realised that, you would have thought, oh, there's UFOs there, or something unidentified.
The reflections of water on the leaves was around the star? That's nuts.
Yes, because the star was low on the horizon. The streetlight was shining on the other trees, catching the reflection of water. It had just rained, and they were glowing.
Cliff, thank you very much indeed. I'm keen to get your UFO stories today, and you will. This isn't. I'm not going to be like Adrian Goldberg. I bet if you called the Adrian Goldberg show with your UFO stories, he'd poo-poo you. He would, wouldn't he? He'd poo-poo you. He's going to poo-poo you. Oh, he's coming in today. I better be nice about him. I'm sure he'd be very generous in his poo-pooing of you, but he'd poo-poo you. I won't, because I buy into this kind of stuff. The reason we're talking about it, well, former President of the United States, Bill Clinton, that one, has said he wouldn't be surprised if we were visited by aliens. He told a TV show that in the last 2 years, more than 20 planets have been identified outside our solar system that seem to be far enough away from their suns and dense enough that they might be able to support some kind of life. Do you believe there's life on other planets? There has to be. 03453 009956. Andy Lound is a UK rep for the Planetary Society and a UFO expert. Morning, Andy.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. There has to be life on other planets, doesn't there?
Well, I agree with that. There has to be out there somewhere. Life's here. We're a planet and we exist, so that's simple straight away. But I do think it has to exist out there. The question always becomes then, do we have intelligent life out there who can build communication devices, who can build machinery that can travel between stars? And that's a bigger step because, of course, intelligent life on the Earth seems to have evolved in a particular way because a whole species of animals, dinosaurs, died out. Otherwise, our type of species may not have arisen at all. So whether or not intelligent life can actually develop becomes another question altogether.
Well, it makes it less of a chance. But mathematically, Andy, with the size of the cosmos and the universe and all, mathematically, there has to be intelligent life somewhere.
I mean, the law of averages tell you there has to be almost, in fact, there are so many stars, so many planets and so many galaxies. There is quite likely the possibility that this conversation is almost taking place simultaneously across the other side of the universe. There's that many numbers, for instance. The big question then becomes, is the actual visitation is a real issue because of the technology to actually get you between the stars. Former President Clinton is absolutely correct, of course. We have found a lot of planets now which seem to be what's called the Goldilocks zone, where you can actually have water in 3 states on the surface of their planet, which is perfect for carbon chemistry, which is where we think that we're really going to only, if you're going to get life like us, we're carbon-based. You could technically get silicon-based because you can have multiple links between the materials then. But then you've got the next step, of course, of the transportation between the two worlds. You've also got the other thing of distance. I mean, we've been on the, Earth has existed for 4.5 billion years. We've actually been on here as a species for a very short period of time. Have only been here in a communicative phase where we've been using radio for just over 100 years. Of that high energy level, really from about 1936 onwards, which means, of course, that if anyone was listening to us with radio, they'd only really start picking us up from 1936 onwards.
Andy, let's get down to the nuts and bolts. We've only got a few minutes. What do you think of these people that claim to have seen UFOs?
Well, I'm quite comfortable with people seeing things. I'm quite happy with that. And I must admit, the previous caller you had should be working in science for the way he broke down and worked out ways of absolutely superb piece of work.
Didn't take it at face value. Well done him.
That's what you've got to do. You've got to take, if you see something, you've got to take a good, cold, scientific view of it. Don't immediately assume, it's a UFO. Oh, my goodness, it must be aliens coming to visit us. Because regardless of everything we've got, we still haven't got a piece of evidence we could shove straight in front of a court and say, look, this is it. After all that.
What about these and they tend to be Americans from Texas who say that they were sucked up one night, they were anally probed, and then they were deposited back in their bed with a chip in their head. What about those people?
This is quite interesting because there is...
They're nuts, aren't they?
Well, no, I don't like calling people nuts because I think they may be experiencing something, but it's again, the definition of what you're experiencing. You get this situation where you are still fully asleep and you're physically completely inert, but yet you are actually quite conscious. That's a state which I've been into it myself. It's quite an interesting one. It's usually when you're under stress. And that can actually start to put memories into your head because your mind starts to work out what's going on. So I think these people are experiencing something, but I think it's more natural down here rather than being taken by extraterrestrials.
Have you ever seen something that you have ultimately come to think was an alien spaceship?
No, I have seen things I can't explain. I can't define them as an alien spaceship because there isn't enough data on that. I have a family member who did see something which was clearly a piece of engineering, and I wish I'd been with them when I saw it because it would have been fantastic. Yeah. And that's something that remains unexplained. But having since seen designs that even the British are working with regarding reconnaissance vehicles, it makes you think again, okay, maybe it was one of these remote reconnaissance vehicles they have, which aren't too large, they're usually saucer-shaped, and they fly up with a couple of cameras stuck on them.
I saw something, Andy, very quickly. My wife saw this, and she doesn't buy into any of this nonsense, but we were both speechless. It was just before dusk. It was in the summer. It was around about 6 o'clock in the evening, and we saw this orange light travelling at very fast speed in a straight direction. Yeah. And before anyone says it was not a Chinese lantern, it was definitely something... It wasn't a Chinese lantern, and we were both freaked out by it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's travelling extremely fast, and it sounds like some sort of, possibly a meteor of some kind, that's quite possible to be that, or a satellite re-entry.
Andy, really nice to talk to you. I'm sorry it's so short. We'll get you on again and get you for longer. Andy Lound, UK rep for the Planetary Society, UFO expert. Over to you. I want your stories. What extraterrestrial experiences have you had? And listen, I'll question you, but I'm going to come with an open mind. I believe in this stuff. 03453 00 9956.
voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's bang on 11 o'clock. Let's get the news now with Nicole Pullman.
A number of people have been disciplined and one member of staff has been sacked over the escape of a Black Country drug trafficker. 2 years ago, 33-year-old John Anslow was sprung from a prison van by men armed with sledgehammers and a shotgun. He was eventually recaptured and 9 days ago was jailed for nearly 30 years. He'd been held at Huel Prison in the West Midlands, and the prison service says the disciplinary action was taken against these members of staff after an investigation into Anslow's escape. Protests are taking place in Birmingham over the so-called bedroom tax. It's a year since social housing tenants who have a spare room have had their housing benefit cut. The government says it'll free up under-occupied homes and save taxpayers £1 million a day. Sandra Kane is one of the organisers of today's protest.
The cost of actually evicting people is something like £6,000 per case. People who are disabled, people who've got adapted properties, and the cost of actually moving to smaller properties, readapting those properties is going to be far higher.
The comedy writer Bob Larby, who helped create classic sitcoms such as The Good Life and Ever-Decreasing Circles, has died at the age of 79. He and his friend John Esmond began their careers writing for BBC radio shows, including I'm Sorry I'll Read That Again, and went on to write some of the most popular television comedies over 4 decades. The actress Jackie Lai appeared in Brushstrokes and says she has very happy memories.
A classic era of British sitcom, and he was at the centre of it, really. So many fantastic shows and kind of gentle humour. There was always affection at the heart of it. And one of the loveliest things was occasionally we'd do the read-through for Brushstrokes and it would come in slightly under time, and we loved that because him and John Esmond would go off in a room and write, another 2 minutes worth of gold, comedy gold.
Sport and West Bromwich Albion face another important afternoon as they continue their fight against relegation from the Premier League with a trip to fellow strugglers Norwich City. There'll be exclusive FM commentary here on BBC WM 95.6 from 3 o'clock. Our build-up starting with early kick-off at midday with Adrian Goldberg sitting in for Daz Hale. And after 2 successive 4-1 defeats, Aston Villa have the chance to recapture the sort of form that saw them beat Norwich and Chelsea as they entertain bottom-of-the-table Fulham this afternoon. The manager, Paul Lambert, says putting the last 2 results aside, defensively, they have shaped up well this season.
We have been pretty solid in the last 2 games because we've been beat 4 with Stoke and 4 with Manchester United, that everybody thinks, they're letting in goals, but if you look at the record up until now for this season, it's been pretty solid enough.
The weather a cloudy day with outbreaks of rain. Some of those showers may be heavy. The temperature not very warm, 13 Celsius this afternoon, 55 Fahrenheit. Tonight will be mild with the temperatures going no lower than 10 Celsius, 50 Fahrenheit. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
They have kids and they want somebody else to keep them.
Social services shouldn't exist.
I know quite a few people that have had pay cuts in their wages just to hang on to their job.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Yes. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. Here until midday when Adrian Goldberg is going to take over. Daz is having some time off. What? Is that allowed here, for goodness sakes? If you want to give us a call, I'll give you the number shortly. Lots that we're talking about this morning. It's been really, really busy on the phone, so I would suggest you try and get in as quickly as you can. OK, it's been very, very busy on the phone. What have we been talking about? Well, we've been talking about and carrying on. I'm moving that for a reason. I know what I'm doing. Thank you. Talking to producer Joe and Bernie. I'm moving it because it'll mess up my system. Giving away a little bit of the magic of BBC WM. I'm moving things on my computer and my production team keep moving it back. Someone's going to end up with egg on their face, and it will probably be me. So, what have we talked about this morning? Well, you can give us a call about Muslims. Some religious groups have said that Muslims are feeling demonised at the moment. Well, are they? And have they integrated? There's a cracking piece in the Telegraph this week from a gentleman who was due to come on the show and then didn't for whatever reason. But it's still a cracking piece. saying that Muslims have fully integrated into this society and it's something we should be proud of. Well, I don't know if they have. I don't know if they have, and I'm not saying it's their fault. I don't know. Your experiences, please. 03453 009956. Could you survive without your car? We've spoken to a few people who don't have a car. Let's try and talk to some people who've got cars. Could you get rid of your cars? Also carrying on your calls, talking about UFOs. And in this hour of the show, I'm keen we get this in before midday, there was talk this week about liver transplants on the NHS and alcoholics being given liver transplants on the NHS. Very simple question. Should alcoholics be given liver transplants? iain.lee@bbc.co.uk. 81333. Start your text WM. The best way, though, and we've got 1, 2, 3 lines free right now. Give me a call. 03453 009956.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453 009956.
BBC WM
95.6. If you missed the last hour, these were some of the calls we took.
I have Muslim friends. I have lots of friends from all different faiths.
They still live in 200 AD. And we will never integrate with them. That's why you've got the ghetto.
Hang on. I'm getting told off. Hang on. How do I stop this? Right. What's wrong, Producer Joe? No, it's the one from the last hour. This is why. Okay. You are for I may be for the high jump, you're for the low jump. Basically, I played the wrong clip. That was some of the calls. No, I've got it on a hot... I'm glad you can't hear what's going on, but I'm getting what I believe officially is termed at the BBC a rollicking in my ears. These are some of the calls from the last hour.
In the Bible, it says that the love your neighbours as you serve, meaning that you should take in other religions and treat them as you would want to be treated yourself. And so Muslims, I don't have a problem with at all, because they're just friends. Like, they're just normal people who just respect another religion.
I lived in a so-called Asian area for 46 years. I was the only white person, and I think a lot of this trouble, people not integrating, is because they don't bother to learn about other people's way of life.
The Catholic Church have lost followers in their millions. The BBC isn't as loved and admired as it used to be because of the unfairness and injustice that goes on at the BBC. But happily, gladly, they don't anymore. They haven't got a hold on us anymore because we're more educated, we are even more intelligent,
yes,
and we've wised up.
Smooth, you see, now no one noticed that... OK, I'll put my hands up, I muffed up. All right, guys, I muffed up. It was my fault, I apologise. On the subject of UFOs, it's Rodney in Handsworth. Morning, Rodney.
How are you, Ian? All right.
I'm good, thank you. Ever seen one?
Well, I have, and I've found this show quite a few times, and I've been, OK. I'm coming on today, and I'm quite nervous talking about it. It sounds daft.
Why are you nervous?
Because it's the thing about being mocked about, oh, yeah, we saw a UFO, must be mad, blah, blah. And the thing is, it was a long time ago, and it was about 1980, and I was Redditch, but working in Birmingham. And I used to be a butcher, so getting up in the morning, it's really black skies and it's really dark. And I've left the house about 5 o'clock. And in the sky is like the sun. You know, it's in the sky, but it's not emitting brightness.
Yeah.
And it's just hovering there, you know, just above the houses. And I'm like, wow. And so I'm out the road, which is about 5 houses. It's only a small road. And I've got to the top of the road, and it's completely gone. And I couldn't explain what this... It's like looking at the sun or the moon, you know, things, you know, and it looks shiny in the sky, but it wasn't emitting brightness. But when I got to the top of the sky, it had completely gone.
Did anybody else see it?
When I got to work, I was about half hour late, and I told my boss that what I saw, and he goes, oh, we're you know, you're late for work, and, you know, joking. But on the Monday, he said to me that there was about 5 sightings in the UK that weekend reported.
Wow.
And before this happened, I mean, like anybody, they'd love to see a UFO.
Oh, wouldn't it be awesome?
Yeah, but since that's happened, I've not been into it so much. It's like... You know, because I couldn't explain it, and it was just like over in pretty much seconds or about a minute.
What do you think it was, Rodney? How has your brain rationalised it?
A UFO is something that you can't explain.
Yeah.
Suddenly seeing, I mean, I'm not a big drinker. I haven't done for years anyway, but I didn't drink much at the time, so it wasn't because I was drunk or the night after a big night. But seeing something in the sky that is like looking at a bright moon or like the sun, and it's not emitting light, like bright, like lighting up the sky. It was just like a disc in the sky, and then suddenly, because it was like actually just looking at the sun. It was just literally, I can't say more than that, and then it's gone within a minute. Unexplained. I can't explain. He didn't do anything.
Listen, I know what you mean about your reluctance, because when I saw my thing, my local, I think I probably tweeted about it. Was I on Twitter then? I don't know. Anyway, my local newspaper got in touch and said, "Oh, we'd love to get you on and do a story." I said, "You know what? No, I'm not going to, because I don't want to be that bloke who everyone goes, oh, he's the nutter who thinks he saw a UFO."
Yeah.
And I didn't particularly want it associated with me. I don't mind talking about it now, but I didn't want to be in the local paper talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. But I mean, people talk about to tell papers that they've been abducted. If I had been abducted in any way, or something like that, or I'd actually had some sort of like, what do they call it when you actually meet an alien?
You get probed. You get anally probed.
I wouldn't tell a soul. I would not tell a soul. If one, that they really think you're mad, and they'll probably lock you up. Two, you might have to go for all these tests and stuff, and have your body by government officials. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't tell anybody that happened to be that'd be my own thing that I'd know about.
I don't want my body probed by government officials. I certainly don't want that. Rodney, thank you, and I appreciate your bravery. I wouldn't mind it, actually. I appreciate your bravery in coming on and discussing that and telling me that. 03453 009956. Shabs is in King's Standing. Morning, Shabs.
Morning, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you, Shabs. What would you like to say?
It's a couple of things, really, about the integrating and also about the aliens, but first of all, about the Muslims.
Yeah.
I'm mixed race myself. My old man's Pakistani, my mum's English. They've been married 50-odd years. I lived in Small Heath all my life. And I've seen a lot of changes over the years. You'll never, ever get them to fully integrate with other people, because that's just how they are. There are things that I've witnessed over the years. I mean, my dad didn't really like Sikhs knocking my door when I had Sikh friends or black friends. He didn't want them knocking the door. My one friend who was a Sikh in the next road, I couldn't knock his door because I was a Muslim, and Asian people don't really like black people, and it's just one of those things. I mean, a lot of my Pakistani friends who are full Muslims, who got a Pakistani mum and dad, I ask them questions like, what happens when your daughter gets older? Will you allow him to marry a black guy? No, never. It will never happen. But that's how they are. There's a lot of faults in every nation, and that's just how it is. You'll never change it. I mean, the Sikh people get on better with English people and black people because a lot of them drink and they go in pubs and they socialise. Muslims don't drink, they don't socialise with English people and black people, so they keep themselves to themselves. And that's just how it is, basically.
Shabs, I appreciate that. You wanted to mention UFOs as well?
Yes, I've always been interested in that. I mean, as a Muslim, you shouldn't believe in UFOs, but I do believe...
Is that against the Muslim faith?
Well,
I've gone right off Muslims now. If that's the case, right, go on. I'm off them. Can't stand them. Coming over here, poo-pooing our UFOs. How rude.
Do you know what? You know something, though? You know how you're joking around like that? Some people take that offensively, and it's wrong, and I hate it. I really, really hate it.
Shabs, trust me, I know I've got a few texts in front of me I'm going to read in a minute. I know how people will be offended by that. I was listening to BBC WM 95.6, and at 11:15, the presenter was very rude about Muslims, saying that it was awful. They come over here and they poo-poo UFOs. Well, get a life.
I heard something earlier on about Muslim phone numbers.
Oh yeah, yes.
Well, listen, back in the day, we used to watch things like Mind Your Language, It Ain't Our Fault, Mum, and all that. My old man's 84. He found it hilarious. Yeah. You couldn't even put that on the TV now.
Yeah, no one.
It's a shame. Anyway, aliens. I believe that there is life form outside our galaxy. But I truly believe that we were a race from another planet and we were destructive, and what they've done is they've dropped us on this planet because it's the most closest for us to live on with the air and everything. And what they've done is every now and again when you do see these sightings, all they're doing is they're popping in and out just to see how we're getting on. That's what I believe.
And where have you got that belief from, Shabs? Because some
I don't
people
know.
might think that's quite an extreme belief to have.
Well, I don't know, but I don't believe that two people, Adam and Eve, can populate the whole world. It's just not possible.
Well, I don't believe that Adam and Eve could populate the whole world, but I do believe the theory of evolution, that we came from fish.
Okay, so how come another fish hasn't...
This is the argument. Why have monkeys stopped evolving?
Exactly.
And I don't know, and I can't answer that, Shabs. Listen, I've got to go, but fascinating chat. Thank you. 03453 009956. I've got some texts that I'm going to do in a second, and then we'll speak to Chris, but right now it's 11:15. It is BBC WM 95.6. Let's get the travel news now with Liz.
Thank you very much, Ian. Do you know, you always sound quite startled when you say my name. I don't know if I'm scaring you or something.
You are terrifying me. No, I'm always startled that I've remembered it. I have a terrible memory for names, awful memory for names, and it always surprises me that I managed to remember yours.
Excellent. I'm pleased to hear it. I'm that memorable.
You're welcome, Susan. Let's have the travel.
All right then, Fred. As you head to Sparkhill, the A34 is looking a little bit busy still along the Stratford Road stretch. Through Kings Heath is congested now on the High Street. Nothing out of the ordinary, to be honest. Round Dudley, the bypass of the A461, that's quite busy between the Cinderbank and Scott's Green Islands. No incidents or anything reported. A little bit busy on Hagley Road, particularly around the roadworks around Bearwood Road Junction. You've got temporary lights in place. Your match day travel sees Baggies fans off to Norwich. It's a good 3 hours down the M6 to the Catthorpe interchange, the A14 and the A11. No incidents to report, but both around the Catthorpe interchange and through Kettering, you'll find some roadworks to contend with. Blues fans going to Doncaster. Again, it's looking clear on the M42 and then on to the M1, but there are roadworks on the M1 28 to 31. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
So if our transport bosses have got 30 million quid to spend...
Exactly. I'd love to talk to them.
Their ears would be burning.
Adrian Goldberg, 9 till 12. The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM
95.6.
He's on today as well. He's on today, filling in for Daz. Let's do some of these texts. Lots of texts. These are primarily about Muslims. OK, let's read these. Andy in Kings Norton, those two calls are the reason why we don't all get on and integrate. The first one admitted he turns his religion on when it suits him, and that woman paints everyone with the same brush, good and bad in every race. We spoke to Sally earlier on, who's the 11-year-old girl who just said, why can't we all get on? Mohammed in Edgbaston says, yes, it's as simple as that girl, Sally. Muslims, older, younger, we too respect all religions. You cannot be a Muslim and not love Jesus. Alan in Kings Norton. Ian, a right-on type of guy. Lol, you are right up yourself. Oh, rude. You criticise listeners for sweeping comments and then promptly do the same with your French people comment. Basically, what I said was, I got in a French cab, I said, the Eiffel Tower, s'il vous plaît. The Eiffel Tower, s'il vous plaît. He knew exactly where I wanted to go. And we had to go, Le Tour Eiffel, s'il vous plaît. Mais oui. He knew he wanted the Eiffel Tower. Promptly do the same with your French people comment. Stop mocking your listeners with your stupid muttering when in conversation with them. I don't think I do that. I'm an avid WM listener, but you are the most irritating presenter, thank you very much, who thinks is right on but makes me turn WM right off. Well, Alan, you listened for the first hour of the show. I'm guessing you listened for the second hour of the show. I'm guessing you're listening now. Could you stop repeating the same words all the time? This could be handy. Kaleem in Great Bar. I was saying I haven't got any Muslim friends. Kaleem says, Ian, I'll be your Muslim friend. And Derek, who called in earlier for that matter. Oh, there we go. OK, that's that box ticked. Thank you. Anonymous, Ian, because you had a bad encounter with one taxi driver, you demonise all French people. Most white people do the same and other people do the same too. Yes, you're right, Debbie. I did play the wrong trail. Thank you for that. Jackie de Escofet. Ian, you're asking the question if anyone has a problem with Muslims. My problem is with you. You appear to be obsessed with being middle class and saying that you have no Muslim friends as you're white middle class. Didn't say that at all. Wasn't what I said, Jackie. Do you have any friends in the lower or upper classes? Oh, no, I would never have such... lower class friends, Jackie. Is this a joke? Do you have any friends in the lower or upper classes that aren't Muslim, or are you implying all Muslims belong to these classes? Jackie, I can see what you tried to do. This would be better on a phone call because you've got so many points wrong. You've got so many points wrong there. I'm not even going to address them. If you want to give us a call, Jackie, 03453 009956. Ian, imposed segregation is one thing, but refusing to interact with anyone else is another, says Jane Dudley. Everyone is petrified of upsetting Muslims. They think they can do what they did in Pakistan. What did they do in Pakistan? Seems strange that they want to change England and we just stand by and let them. Some areas of this country now appear foreign. Julia. Really? They think they can do what they did in Pakistan. Well, what did Muslims do in Pakistan? We created, a little bit of history. When was partition? 1948, I'm guessing, where basically we owned India. 1948, 1947, something like that. We owned India, and India was just one country, and we realised that we couldn't rule India anymore. We realised we'd screwed it up. So we gave... We kind of segregated it, and we gave... what was the gentleman's name? Muhammad Ali Jinnah. We created Pakistan for him and Muslims, and Gandhi, I'm guessing Gandhi and Nehru, we gave them India. So India was massive, and India was kind of all of the wealthy parts of the continent that you could grow and work in, and Pakistan was pretty barren. And we basically said, and I've got my history slightly wrong, someone will correct me, we basically said, right, all Muslims in the continent of India, subcontinent of India, you have a month to get to Pakistan, this tiny, quite barren, small corner of the subcontinent. And that was it. We gave them a month to set up and build a country. Wow. You wonder why it's in a mess. 1947, was it? I wasn't far off. You wonder why it's in such a mess. We gave them a month to set up a country. 1947. OK. Chris is in Walsall. Morning, Chris.
Morning, Ian. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm always pleased to be able to exercise a little bit of knowledge about Pakistan. It means I've remembered stuff. Chris, what would you like to say?
Thank you for an absolute inspirational phone call. And it came from an 11-year-old girl who seemed to talk common sense. And basically, she just more or less said to, like, most of us adults, how old are you? Because, like, basically... she's the voice of Birmingham now. I mean, like, all we seem to be doing is nursing old grudges and, like, letting them fester and then, like, letting it come to brew to a Saturday and then, like, we're letting all the spite and the bile come out. And, like, I reckon a lot of young people from Birmingham, they're most probably laughing at us because they're most probably saying, get a life. And I think, like, it takes... like, somebody with a young perspective, somebody who does integrate, somebody who, like, all these kind of, like, old grudges don't matter. Whatever happened in the 70s, it doesn't matter. Whatever happened before the 90s doesn't matter. And they're most probably saying, what is the fuss? And I think, like, it takes that kind of perspective to make you think, what the hell are we doing?
For those who missed it, you're referring to Sally, who was very nervous about coming on. She came on just after 10 o'clock, and she's 11 years old, and she basically said, why can't we all get on? Aren't we all just supposed to be nice to each other?
Absolutely superb, Ian.
She was good, wasn't she?
And I think, like, we should open the floodgates more to young contributors.
Oh, listen. They are always... the reason they don't come on this show in particular, Chris, is they don't call up. And I can understand why 11, 12, 15, 20-year-olds wouldn't want to listen to an old man on a local BBC radio station. But if they call up, Chris, they are more than welcome to come on, and I agree, I'd like to hear more young voices.
Ian, they're the voice of Birmingham now, not the voice of Birmingham then. And that is what a lot of calls seem to be about, just wallowing in the past. Like how Britain was great when the Normans came over, the wonderful castles, etc. Better than the Romans, who were better than the Picts, who were better than the cavemen, who were better than the dinosaurs. And, like, you know, who'd have thought that, like, 40 years ago, I mean, like, we had the problems with the Irish. Now we've got the third best St. Patrick's Day in the world.
It's true. Chris, do you think, and it's hard to talk about, I don't particularly want to talk about Sally specifically, but do you think young people like Sally, who are as optimistic as that, do you think that optimism will carry on, or do you think it will go as they get older?
I think there will be cynicism so long as they don't get a voice.
Yeah.
Because, like, let's put it this, I mean, like, when young people are spoken about, it's usually because they're the victim of, like, say, a knife crime or something like that. But who's the spokesman? It's an adult, it's a policeman, it's a council leader, it's a youth worker or something like that. I mean, like, OK, a kind of, like, there will be a kind of like focus group, like, oh, let's hear the youth of today, but then like that's just a sound bite for a news item then.
Yeah.
And I think like if kind of like a lot of kids, I mean, like, for example, BBC introducing, it's like the one programme that's geared for young listeners.
Yeah.
When's it put on? When young listeners are out.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And I think, like, if there was something like more focus, I mean, like, unfortunately, like, most talk shows are like, say, when young kids are at school.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, a lot of people would contribute, so long as they're not talked down to.
Yeah.
Because they have got a lot to offer.
I mentioned this earlier. One of my favourite parts of any radio in the week is when Molly it's about 7:30, I think, isn't it, when she gets like a young footballer on.
Yeah, but she doesn't talk down to them.
No, she doesn't. She talks to them like they were any other guest, which is why it's so good. It's not patronising, and it excites me. I love speech radio. I don't like music radio particularly. I like speech radio. It excites me hearing young people taking part. Because and particularly when you hear people like Sally this morning, because you kind of think, if Sally is the future, well, then my kids and my grandkids are going to be all right.
I think, like, it ought to be encouraged, and I think, like, really, I mean, like, some of the contributors now, if they're going to contribute just the same old stuff...
Jog on.
Yeah, I think, like, basically, we ought to... And I put my hand up myself, I'm going to move aside, let the youth through.
Chris, listen, before you put your hand up yourself... Can I just play you a little bit of Van Greaves? This is the musician we're featuring this week. We talk about younger people. We're also asking for over 60s. Have a listen to this.
She's fire nice, a little crazy, but it's nice. And when she gets mad, you'd best leave her alone.
What do you reckon, Chris? Any good?
Well, country and western's not really my thing.
Oh. Is that a polite way of saying you think he's not very good?
Well, I can't really judge on that because, like, like in its own genre, I'm sure he's got his own fan base.
But Chris from Walsall, you're not digging it.
I'm not digging it at the moment.
Chris, thank you. Oh dear. So it's one 9 out of 10. And Chris isn't digging it. If you want to have your say on Van Greaves, 03453 009956.
Darlaston,
Edgbaston,
Erdington,
Paisley, Gornal Wood. Have your say across the West Midlands.
BBC WM
95.6.
There we go. Right. Here's something. Last 30 minutes of the show, you can call in about any of the things we've talked about. I feel I have to keep establishing the rules. The rules are you can call in about any of the things we've talked about at any point of the show. You can also, if there's something you want to talk about that we've not addressed, 03453 009956. And kind of now, about 11:30 is a really good time to call in. A, we've got 30 minutes left until Adrian Goldberg comes in. B, the phone's slowed down a little bit. So now is an excellent time. I've got 3 lines free. 03453 009956. Here's a question. Should alcoholics be given liver transplants on the NHS? The NHS Blood and Transplant Services decision will affect those with severe alcohol-associated hepatitis who've previously been denied transplants because their prognosis was so poor. So basically, the NHS has now said, look, if you've got hepatitis and you've got it through alcohol, we'll give you a liver. We'll give you one chance, you can have a new liver. Well, would you be happy to donate your liver if you knew it may go to an alcoholic? I'm keen to get your thoughts on this. Everyone cites George Best as the example of a liver transplant to a boozer, and then he carried on boozing. But surely everybody deserves a second chance, don't they? They deserve a chance to live, even if they've got ill through their own self-abuse. It's like, would you refuse heart treatment to a fat man? Now, you could say that his weight, his obesity, is the reason that his heart is weakened. It's self-abuse. You wouldn't hold back on treatment because of that, would you? It's the same thing. Should alcoholics be given liver transplants? 03453 009956. Well, I'm joined now by school teacher Kath Prothero from Great Bar. Kath, you had a liver transplant, but I should flag up, you're not an alcoholic, are you?
No, I'm not an alcoholic. I enjoy the odd drink, I have to say.
And
but
there may be gossip in the town, but no, you're not. So what happened? Why did you need a liver transplant?
Right, I had my transplant back in 2010 now, and I was taken ill very, very, very quickly, very seriously. I had acute liver failure, And it was actually, there's a non-diagnosis for mine. There was no cause of my liver failure. It was something called seronegative hepatitis, where, the liver, my old liver was tested and so on and so forth, but there was no actual cause for my liver failure. So mine was not alcohol-related. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed, the odd glass of red wine and my real ale and whatever.
But did people... Oh, real ale, Kath, please.
Yeah, I know. It was at the Warsaw Beer Festival last night as well.
Blimey. But did people... Because when you hear liver transplants, people tend to raise their eyebrows and nudge each other. Did people think it was because you were a boozer?
Yeah.
And did they say that to you?
Not all. Obviously, friends and family knew that it wasn't through alcohol. But, I struck up a conversation once with a guy about 6 months after I'd had my transplant in the post office in Warsaw, and he said, "Oh, transplant." He said, "Oh, you like to drink then?" And other people have said to me, "Oh, you enjoyed a tipple then, or something like that." And you do tend to get that misconception that all liver failure is down to alcohol abuse. And it's not.
It's odd, isn't it?
Unfortunately, George Best, everybody brings up the example of George Best who had that, who had his liver transplant, and unfortunately, he just couldn't stop drinking alcohol. And I think, I know this is only a pilot scheme from what I've read.
Yeah.
And it's for 18 to 40-year-olds. There has got to be, if that's going to take place, which I think it is, there's got to be an undertaking, that people are not going to abuse their new liver.
This is the thing, and I have friends who are struggling with alcohol, and I don't think if you were to go into a hospital and the doctor say, "Look, I can give you a new liver, but you're going to have to stop drinking,"
Absolutely.
I don't think that would necessarily be enough for most alcoholics to actually stop drinking.
I think you're talking about, people who are severely affected by alcohol. I think you've got to look at the underlying reason why. Why have they abused their liver in such a way that they've been drinking so much? And see, there's got to be more messages going out about, prevention, and educating the youngsters about the damage that they can do to
Going back to your transplant, Kath, how long did you have to wait from the diagnosis to the operation?
Well, because I was taken ill so quickly that I had no recollection of it because all my toxins had gone into my head and I had no idea really where I was and what was happening.
You were conscious, but you were out of it?
Out of it, completely out of it. So it was my husband who had to deal with all of that, and I was given 4 days to live.
Oh, my goodness.
So then was put on the top of the super urgent donor list, and my husband was taken to one side of my son's and was told, Kath's got 4 days if we don't find a donor.
How old were your boys at the time?
Sam was it was a couple of days before his 17th birthday, actually. Not a good birthday for him that year.
No, not at all.
And my other son was 20 at the time, yeah. So it all happened very quickly for me, and then I had to come to terms with having had a transplant, actually, when I woke up and came out of the fog, really. And,
what do you mean you had to come to terms with it? Was it difficult to accept that?
Well, it was, because up till then I'd always been very healthy, physically active, played hockey, walked a lot, run, had a relatively healthy diet, always watched my weight, and then to suddenly have to come to terms with the fact, well, actually, you've had a liver transplant.
Yeah.
And then after that, so both, physically and mentally, emotionally, it was very difficult to come to terms with, because it's a huge trauma to have something like that. And then I thought, well, this is a gift, and it is a gift. There are many people who are waiting for that precious gift. And I actually think, another offshoot of this pilot scheme, I think it's going to affect people's decisions to actually go onto the organ donor list. Myself, that's my own personal view.
Do you think people might be slightly more reluctant to go on there because of this?
I do.
Why do you think that?
Because there is that conception of the fact that people have, drunk themselves into this problem. It's their fault that they're in that problem of drinking so heavily, and would people really want their donated livers to go to an alcoholic who can't necessarily, say that they're definitely going to stay off the booze once they've had that transplant.
It's an interesting point. We'll put that out there. 03453 009956. What's life like for you now, Kath? Are you, in inverted commas, back to normal?
Yeah.
Can you do everything that you did before?
Yeah, I ran the Birmingham Half Marathon in October.
Oh, show off. For goodness sakes.
Yeah, I'm working full-time. I work as a school teacher. That's busy. 5 days a week, back working full-time.
And are you... no, I'm going to ask the question, so you sound like you can take it. Are you going to live a normal length life?
I hope so.
That's how it works, does it?
I've asked that question. Obviously, very early on after my transplant, I wanted to know, look, tell me, how long am I going to live? Is this going to affect my longevity, as it were? And, was told, no, it shouldn't.
Isn't that amazing?
It depends very much on, obviously, how you live your life, which is a message that anybody would be told, just watch what you're eating and so on and so forth. But it hasn't stopped me doing anything, I feel tired, but I don't know whether that's down to my age half the time. And I do get fatigued quite a bit. Got to keep taking the tablets. I take about 7 tablets a day now, and obviously those are immunosuppressants. So you have to take those.
And you're doing that. You're taking those forever.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but that's no hardship.
Yeah.
They have side effects. There's a higher risk of cancer. There's a higher risk of your kidneys giving out a bit earlier and so on and so forth.
But you should have died. You should have died within 4 days.
Absolutely.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Kath, I really appreciate your story this morning. It's fascinating. Thank you.
OK, no problem.
Thank you very much indeed. It's Kath Prothero from Great Bar, had a liver transplant. Interesting point she makes there. There's a couple of questions. Should alcoholics be given liver transplants? She thinks it might make potential donors a little bit more reluctant if they think that their livers will be going to someone who's caused the liver damage themselves. It's been self-inflicted through abusing alcohol. Well, would it make you more reluctant? I'm trying to think. I've signed up to... You can have... When I'm dead, you can have everything. Everything. Take it, do what you want with it. It's funny, isn't it? I've done this before, phone-ins about transplants, and so many people say, oh, you can take everything, just don't take my eyes. It's the eyes, isn't it? Isn't that funny? Oh, yeah, I don't want them to... Why don't you want them taking your eyes? Just the thought of my eyes. I know, so many people are. Producer Jo is just telling me she's the same. Isn't that funny? You won't know, you're dead. You're not going to be walking around in heaven going, I can't see anything, I shouldn't have let them take my flipping eyes. So are you reluctant, would you be reluctant to donate your organs if there was a chance that your liver might go to an alcoholic who's brought the condition on themselves? And simple question, should alcoholics be given liver transplants on the NHS? 03453 009956. We'll take your calls on that. Bob, Dave, stay there. There's one tweet I've got to read out. 2 tweets from Scott. Okay. It was 20 years ago Kurt Cobain died. We were in the treaty in Uxbridge when the rumour went round and everyone went home to check CFAX. And then his next tweet is, imagine having to go home to check something. How bonkers is that? And he's right, isn't he? 20 years ago, you had to go home to check on the news or on the radio or on CFAX. CFAX, anybody? What? There's a rumour going around. Oh, have you heard the rumour? Kurt Cobain's dead. Really? Quick, we better go home and turn on some really bad, the old-fashioned internet, CFAX, and have a look. Yeah, watching the telly. You're right, we're watching the telly through Dixon's, through the window in Dixon's. 03453 009956. I just thought now that the thought of going home to check something is such an old-fashioned, quaint thought, isn't it? Scott's in Cannock. Morning, Scott.
Hello there, Ian.
What have you called in about, sir?
Well, I had liver problems, which I didn't know about. I had a gastric bypass operation on the NHS 2009.
Is this the gastric band type thing?
The bypass, which is total removal of your stomach and clamped off, which is permanent.
Oh, blimey. And why was this?
Because I did get overweight, I had my own taxi company and gradually gained weight over about 15 years.
So hang on, sorry, I've not heard of the gastric bypass. What did they do?
They remove your stomach and they create a smaller stomach in a smaller pouch
Because you're
Just slightly
fat?
higher up of your body, yeah.
Blimey, I've never heard that sounded drastic. How big were you, Scott, if you don't mind me asking?
I went up to about 28-ish stone.
And how tall are you?
5'10".
Oh, blimey. OK, all right. So you went and had that done.
And obviously, I've lost weight. I'm
Yeah.
down to 15 stone.
Yeah, good for you. Well done.
When I was there, they found out I had non-alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver.
Yeah.
Never drunk, never smoked, but it was down to drinking a lot of diet pop, fizzy pop.
Yeah.
And it's the additives in mainly the sugar-free pop, which had caused my liver to go down to about 44%. And they tried to find me a liver transplant, and they gave me a few months to see if it would regenerate a little bit.
Yeah.
And luckily, it's risen and risen and risen. But the one about transplants for alcoholics, would it be the same as having surgery for being overweight?
Well, this is the argument that we do hear from time to time, Scott, that boob jobs and fat people having surgery because they're overweight, that kind of stuff should be considered almost a luxury, self-inflicted to a certain extent.
Exactly.
And I'm not necessarily saying that's my thought or not, but that's the argument you do hear, that your condition could be argued was self-inflicted.
It was. I blame myself from being a super fit, semi-pro footballer
to
getting injured and just gaining weight so easily.
And was it the injury, Scott, that brought on the change, do you think?
Not really. I started to work and earn money, and it was just easier when I was out about to eat mainly junk food, which I put my hand up entirely.
Yeah.
I dieted up and down. But
what do you reckon, Scott? Should alcoholics be given liver transplants?
It all depends. If you can never say if they're going to change I changed my lifestyle, but will they?
Yeah.
When I was in hospital having my surgery, there was a chap opposite who was a heroin user, and he was having vein construct surgery from his legs, from where he'd been injecting. And they were treating him with the methadone while he was in.
Yeah.
You could. It is tough.
It's a tough one, Scott. Thank you for that. Thank you for your story. Joanna's on the line. Morning, Joanna.
Good morning.
Joanna, what would you like to say?
Well, my brother was an alcoholic. He's actually died a bit a year or so ago now.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No. I don't believe they should have a transplant. He had many chances. The NHS gave him many options, many chances, and he just blew all of them. It came back to he gave up his family and everything just for the drink. He wouldn't change for anyone. He was just pushing himself to the limit. And at the end, he actually died from his liver failure. And no, I'm an organ donor. Same again. I can have everything except my eyes.
What is it with the eyes, Joanna? Why not the eyes?
It's exactly what you said. I've been one for 20 plus years since I started driving. And when it came down to ticking the boxes, they could have everything except my eyes. I don't know what it is.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
But,
would you object if you had the choice, and we don't? But would you object to an alcoholic getting your liver?
Yes. If it was between an alcoholic or a husband, a father, a daughter.
Joanna, we're losing you, but we got your point across. You wouldn't want an alcoholic to have your liver, and I'm sorry to hear about your brother. It's interesting, isn't it? 03453 009956. Should alcoholics be given liver transplants? And would you be happy? The thought of alcoholics possibly getting your liver, does that make you slightly more reluctant to give your organs? And can we? Where have we got? We've got 15 minutes of the show before Adrian Goldberg sits in for Daz. Can someone explain to me why people are reluctant to give their eyes as part of their organ transplants? What is that about? I don't get it. And it's really, really common. What's the problem with the eyes? What? You think you're going to be bumping into harps and clouds when you go to heaven? It's an odd one, isn't it? 03453 009956. Can someone explain to me that? Well, we'll also be playing a bit more of Van Greaves before the end of the show. Bob and Dave, stay there. You've been waiting for ages. I appreciate it. Let me get the travel, and then I'll come straight to you. It's 11:44. We're a little bit early. Liz, are you ready?
I am.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm always ready for anything you want to throw at me.
It will just be travel I'm throwing at you.
Okay,
I promise you, it's
fine.
unlikely I'll be throwing anything else at you.
That's probably just as well, but I am
so.
prepared.
Well, I appreciate the offer. Let's have the travel now.
We are getting word of problems in Rugeley, Ian, actually. As you head to Coppice Road, reports of an accident at Whitgreave Lane. We understand the vehicle's gone through a garden wall, but police have gone to the scene. It may cause problems later on when it's being recovered, but for the moment there's no lane closures on the road. It's just something to be aware of. As you head to Codsall on the A41, we're getting reports of some sort of traffic problem at the junction with Holyhead Road, the A464, just north of Wolverhampton, so just be a bit cautious around there. Busy in Birmingham on Hagley Road and along by Bearwood Road is looking quite congested as well. Of course, in the latter, you've got temporary lights while roadworks are going on. As you head on to the motorways, they're all looking okay. Your matchday travel sees Baggies fans off to Norwich, down the M6 onto the A14 and then the A11, all looking good. Couple of sets of roadworks to contend with, though, at the Capthorpe interchange and around Kettering. Blues fans going to Doncaster, both the M42 and the M1 move well. However, there are roadworks around Mansfield. That's from junction 28 through to 31, likely to cause you a bit of a delay. To update us, 08453 002288.
We've got Barbara in Dudley. Morning, Barbara.
Good morning, Pete.
Thank you very much for being a 6 o'clock clubber. Thanks very much for getting
every
in touch.
day.
Good on you.
Pete Morgan, 6 till 9.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
15 minutes of the show. Can we investigate this a little bit further? If you're signed up to give your organs, as I think everybody should be, it should be an opt-out. Maybe that's a phone in for another day. Should be an opt-out system. Why are you reluctant to give your eyes? Producer Jo was just trying to explain it to me. She's going, but my eyes are so personal. Well, hang on, you'll be dead. You'll be dead. You don't need them. So, I only found out a couple of years ago they could transplant the eyes. Isn't that weird? 03453 009956. What parts of your body do you not want to give when you're dead? Let's ask that. Bob's been waiting for ages. Morning, Bob.
Morning.
Thank you for your patience. It's appreciated. What you got for me?
Basically, just going back to the religion, Muslim, blah,
yes.
blah, blah. But I think it's a lot down to do... Well, I come over in 1969 with my parents, and I think it's a lot down... My parents then and my grandparents, all the families all over it.
Where did you come from?
Ireland.
Okay, right.
Yeah. We come over... I was young, 6-year-old. Anyways, we was told sort of thing that we couldn't go and play with English kids and this, that, blah, blah, blah. When we first come over, we weren't allowed to unless we was when we was in school, we started to get to know them, obviously, blah, blah. Then obviously the pub bombings coming, that ruined everything completely.
Yeah.
But I think it's our parents. I look back and it's my parents. We couldn't do this, couldn't do that. And then, that's basically, I think it's more down to the Muslim kids' parents and stuff. And now, 20 years down, 30 years down, you have St Patrick's Day like you do, everyone's there. Well, the Muslim, that might just come in 20 years' time. It's bound to happen there, isn't it, really, sort of thing?
There weren't specifically, as it's going back a little bit before my time, there weren't, as far as I can remember, areas that were could be perceived as being specifically Irish, where there are areas that are perceived as being specifically...
No.
There was there?
It was like Winston Green.
Okay.
Around that way. It was
Yeah.
Irish. There was a place called Brookfield who was brought up around there. It was there's nearly every household around there was all Irish. And then you had the Stratford Road. That was all Irish sort of thing. That was back in the 60s. Well, anyone would say.
So there were places that were perceived to be Irish areas.
Yes, there was. Yes, it was. We obviously where we played out was just with Irish kids sort of thing, and even to the school would be in Winston Green was like just mainly all Irish sort of thing. If you understand what I mean.
I don't know if you heard Sally, who was the 11-year-old girl we spoke to just after 10.
That's what I'm saying. That's someone like, someone from the Muslims. It'd be nice to hear. We don't really know what their religion is. No, I wouldn't have a clue. But
is that not your responsibility to find out?
Well, it's not my responsibility. But I think, you are right in that department. But I think if my children was to, well, they've grown up, but my grandkids was to, like sort of thing. My grandson's half. Well, he's not Muslim, but he's half Indian, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So, but I don't know the ins and outs sort of thing of the religion. I'd like to probably, yeah.
Well, why don't you go and get a book on it?
Well, basically because I'm not that very good on reading.
Oh, right, okay.
But I'd love to, but I think in 20 years' time, it will be, you probably have, I don't know, days where we can go out. It's like I say, St Patrick's Day wasn't a celebration day. It's a religious day.
Everyone goes around with those stupid Guinness hats
Well,
now,
yeah,
don't they?
Well, so if you look back, it should be. It's supposed to be a religious day.
Yeah, well,
not a celebration.
Bob, listen, I appreciate that. He's saying that with time, you know, the integration takes a lot of time, and you have to get through a few generations. And he's right. I remember St Patrick's Day was it was kind of a niche thing. Now everybody goes around in those ridiculous Guinness hats. Oh dearie me, an inflatable oh dear. Deary me. I try and stay out of major towns and cities on St Patrick's Day because it's just awful, isn't it? 03453 009956. I am miserable. I'm a very grumpy old man. Man, when I get into my 60s and 70s, I'm going to be so grumpy. I'm going to love every second of it. Dave's on the line. Morning, Dave.
Hello, Ian. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being a grumpy old man, Dave, and I'm practising now.
And not far to go.
Well, hang on a minute. I'm 40. I've got a few years.
Well, he's 39, closer than I am.
Yay. What have you got for me, Dave?
Integration.
Yes.
Right? I mean, the thing is, a lot of those people that moan about Muslim people or whatever being in this country and not learning the language, some of the older ones, or not integrating, they'd be the ones that go on holiday to Spain and eat English breakfasts all day, watching Only Fools and Horses. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've got family that have moved to France, and they just live in little expat communities, eating their beans on toast, and not learning any of the language.
Why would you move to a foreign country and not try and learn? I mean, not become fluent in French, but learn the basics, learn how to order food, and exactly, pass the time of day. And why would you go to a foreign country to live with other British people? You might as well just stay at home.
Or even, I'm even of the belief, if you go on holiday to a foreign country, try the foreign food and, the local cuisine. Even learn a few words so you can be friendly with the bar owners or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, anyway. But, yeah, anyway, my ex-wife is Turkish, and I've got a little boy, so he's been raised with some Muslim values.
Yeah.
Because I'm atheist, and I didn't really mind too much either way. Whether so my little boy doesn't eat pork, and it does get to me sometimes when people are at work and they're not aware of that, and they'll be talking about Muslims this, Muslims that, and I've got a little boy, so it pulls right at my heartstrings.
But then surely this, the true integration, or a form of true integration, is when different faiths have kids together, and I guess it could be suggested that it's partly your responsibility to help educate those people at work that perhaps are being a little bit bigoted in their opinions.
Well, I do try to. I try to explain that the radicals and stuff, they're not real Muslims. Those are like just off the scale.
Mm. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Dave, very quickly, while I've got you on, just because this is puzzling me, and I don't think we're going to sort this out today, are you up for donating your organs when you die?
Yeah, everything, eyes, the lot.
Even the eyes?
Yeah.
I can't. I'm really struggling to get my head around why people wouldn't give their eyes.
Don't know. What's the point if you've got no... if you've got nothing else left, what's the point of just having a pair of eyes in a jar?
I tell you, a nice pair of eyes in a jar. Dave, thank you very much indeed. We've got 7 minutes of the show left before Adrian comes in. Why would you not give your eyes? 03453 009956. Sue's from Marston Green. Morning, Sue.
Good morning.
So what would you like to say?
Well, we're talking about liver transplantation and the fact that people, with alcohol problems get them. I used to work for the Children's Liver Disease Foundation quite a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
And dealt with the parents whose children had liver conditions, which were obviously through no fault of alcohol in any way, shape or form.
Yes.
And it was quite an emotive subject. I worked there at the time when, what was the footballer's name?
George Best.
Georgie Best had his. And there were a lot of mixed emotions amongst the families, really, that sort of said, well, hang on a minute, surely these children come for people who have liver conditions rather than people who have, got them through alcohol. And it is very emotive when you're dealing with children who have liver conditions, and I think that. But I can see the other side of it as well. I mean, obviously, alcoholism is an illness. So, but, it is very emotive, especially if you're dealing with people who have conditions that are, from birth.
But kids wouldn't be missing out on liver transplants because of alcoholics, would you? I'm assuming that a child...
I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is it can cause emotion, anger amongst families who are dealing with those conditions.
Why don't people want to donate their eyes, Sue?
I don't know.
It's weird, isn't it?
My opinion is that they can have anything they want once I'm dead.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but certainly, if they can be used to help someone see, surely that's as good as anything else. Everything else is going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, once you die, everything's going to rot away.
You should see
it doesn't matter,
Producer
really,
Joe.
what you give.
Producer Joe is covering her face and almost weeping and whispering in my ear, "Don't take my eyes, please, not my eyes."
Yeah, I don't know. I think,
eyes, you wouldn't want them
I
anyway,
personally it wouldn't matter, and I would love the opt-out system to come into being.
Yeah.
Because
I think it should be an opt-out,
because,
definitely.
it's not just, as I say, it's not livers, it's kidneys, it's all sorts of things. And the way the medical profession is going, more and more things will be able to be used, and I think it's sad if people, don't want to do that.
Sue, thank you very much indeed. I think it's got to be an opt-out system, hasn't it? Now, listen, I'm only moving on because we're running out of time. Goldberg's coming in a bit. We got Van Greaves is on the line. Good morning, Van.
Good morning, Ian, I should say.
Yes, get the name right, Van. Otherwise, I'll take back all the good work I've been doing for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lady on earlier on didn't get my name right, but never mind.
Yeah, I know. How naughty of someone to do that? Now, Van, listen, you are our how can I put this? Slightly older musical guest that we've been featuring this week. Look, Adrian Goldberg is coming. I'm just trying to sort his microphone out. Hang on a second. Adrian, try that one there.
Does that work?
No.
I'll tell you what, I'll come over and sit next to you.
Come and sit on my lap.
Yeah.
Come and sit on my lap. You come and do that. Van, listen.
Yeah.
We've been playing your music. Come and sit here, fella. Come on.
Come on.
There we go.
I am sitting on Ian Lee's lap as we speak.
He's a big boy. Blimey. Have you heard any of Van's music that we've been playing this morning?
I've been loving it.
Did you enjoy it?
Brilliant.
It's
Great.
good, isn't it?
Fantastic.
It's had pretty good feedback, Van.
Well, that's okay, yeah. I mean, Adrian knows me anyway.
Well, yes, I know.
I've seen him perform.
Albion
I've seen him perform.
Have you been drinking?
I haven't. Only tea, chai tea. That's what.
You see, is Van any good live?
He's a one of those artists, better as a recorded artist.
Van, listen.
Only because I've got a bald head, Adrian. You should be so lucky, mate.
Now, Van, listen, you've been a very good sport. You've had a lot of good feedback on the show this morning. I appreciate you sending your stuff in.
Yeah.
Where and when can people find out more about you?
Okay, vangreaves.com.
Beautiful. Well, it's nice and straightforward. You got any gigs coming up?
VANGREAVES.com.
Have you got any gigs coming up?
Yeah, I'm at a place called Astley Village Hall,
Beautiful.
which is out in the sticks, the other side of Stourport.
Beautiful.
And
Van,
then I'm up in Tamworth after that.
Van, it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much. I'm going to let you go. VanGreaves.com. Only because it's quite awkward that you are genuinely sat on my lap.
I know. But how else am I going to deliver my words to the people of the West Midlands?
I don't want to say anything, but this is why I sabotaged the desk. I could have got that microphone working. Of course I could. I know how to do that.
I know that.
Adrian, you're filling in for
You're
Daz.
very comfortable in your sexuality. I know that.
You've got very comfortable buttocks as well. What's on your show today?
We're going to have some great fun with early kick-off today. Going to be talking about the footballers that you've seen in non-league, either on the way up, before they were famous, or on the way down.
Yeah.
Lee Hendry, famous local footballer of this parish, former Villa player, ex-England international. Rumours this week that he was going to sign for Tavistock Town.
Oh, dear.
He didn't. He's still staying with Basford in Nottingham. But you just think how the mighty have fallen. But he's a good lad, Lee Hendry. So we'll talk about that and your favourite second team as well. Or can I stop sitting on your lap now?
Well, if you have to. Thank you, Adrian. You're a good sport. I was looking up at him adoringly. He's a legend of radio. He's sat on my lap. Adrian, thank you very much. Nice to see you, boss. Right, that's it. That's your lot, dear listener. I think we've just about finished. People are calling him. I'm sorry, it's over. If you want to get in touch with me during the week, you're more than welcome to. You can send me an email, iain.lee@bbc.co.uk. I spell the Ian correctly. It's an iain.lee. Thank you to everyone who took part in the show. Lots of calls this morning. Very busy morning. And it's appreciated. I like it when we get the calls. It just kind of makes it work. The texts and all of that stuff, it's fine. But it's all about the calls for me. I'm going to shut up. Adrian Goldberg will be up next. I'll be back next week, every Saturday between 9 and 12 on BBC WM 95.6.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
Very good morning to you. My name's Adrian Goldberg. Many thanks to Ian for a cracking 3 hours of phone-in. We're going to have some great music. We're going to be building up towards this afternoon's football involving our local teams across the